What is up, everyone, and welcome back to the Fast Life Podcast. We have a great episode today with Bare Knuckle Paul and CW, some good guys up there in the St. Louis area. But first, check out our sponsor. My guys over at Simpson Motorcycle Helmets have been dropping new colorways and designs like clockwork. From the limited edition Pony Boy and to my personal favorite, the Crypsis, which is a woodland camo Ghost Bandit, along with the matte Stealth Gray Mod Bandit, and of course the Speed Bandit, which is an affordable option that doesn't sacrifice the style or quality Simpson is known to deliver. Head on over to simpsonmotorcyclehelmets.com to check out the models, finishes, and visor options, and also give my guys a follow on Instagram at Simpson Motorcycle Helmets. Lexin is my go-to for not only my Bluetooth system, the FT4 Pro on my helmets, but now my wireless charging solution on the road as well, with their WPC QI wireless charger. This is a water-resistant wireless charger for the RAM Mount X Grip phone holder. This easy-to-set-up system uses a battery Tinder-style plug for easy install and will only set you back $64.95 with a 2-year unlimited warranty. You can also grab yourself a Lexin WPC and RAM X mount kit from Lexin-Moto for $110. And check out, drop that Fast Life offer code to save yourself 15%. And don't forget to give Lexin and the team a follow on Instagram at Lexin-Moto. I recently switched all my lighting on my Road Glide to Electric Lighting Co. I'm a huge fan of the looks and the improved visibility I get from the shark tooth headlight, and I'm digging the 5-year warranty on the 15 different LED headlight options for your motorcycle. Their deluxe and premium LED turn signals offer 530 lumens of bright white running light, which are the brightest in the industry, and backed by a lifetime warranty. And last but not least, the LED tail lamps come in a wide range of designs to add that finishing touch, and all products are plug and play. NAM's custom cycle products since 1999 have been offering American-made wiring products for all things V-twin, and Badlands for over 30 years have been offering the most reliable and dependable lighting modules in the USA, backed by a lifetime warranty. Find out more about these great companies at namscustomcycleproducts.com. Thundermax and their ECM computers are designed to provide your EFI-equipped Harley-Davidson with the most advanced auto-tuning available. A Thundermax ECM eliminates tuning hassles when upgrading your exhaust or air cleaner, or when adding a cam or big bore kit, by simply allowing you, the user, the ability to simply download a base map and let the computer do the rest. Also, a hot item is their iRide rear suspension, which is a performance air ride rear suspension, giving you the ability to adjust many aspects from the handlebar mounted touchscreen. This rear suspension is the best of both worlds. Check out these products at shoptmax.com and use offer code FASTLIFE at checkout to save yourself 10% off. And follow Thundermax EFI on Instagram. John Jessup's Team Dream Rides out of Stockton, California is a one-stop shop for you to have your motorcycle customized, maintained, repaired, and upgraded with in-house dyno tuning and parts and accessories. Also, check out teamdreamrides.com online store to see the full array of products for your bike and you as a rider. And if you're short on cash, you can take advantage on the 100 days same as cash financing on teamdreamrides.com. All you need is a job and a bank account, and while you're at it, give the team a follow at DreamRidesJohn on Instagram. Paint Huffer Metal Flake has been with our podcast since day one, and I have been using their flakes and pearls in my paint work for over 4 years now. And you can get started down this custom paint path with many must-have items for the custom paint process at painthuffer.com. And you can save yourself some coin by using the FASTLIFE20 offer code at checkout. And last but not least, you can get some inspiration by checking out all the amazing work created with the Paint Huffer products at Paint Huffer Metal Flake on Instagram. Yo, what is up, man? This trip has been amazing, and I cannot wait to unload all these podcasts. We have, I believe, 12 recorded from St. Louis to Milwaukee to Michigan to New York City, all the way home. It was a blast of a trip, and I'm glad to be dumping these podcasts out for you guys to check them. This first podcast, our first stop on this trip, was with Bare Knuckle Performance. Paul's been in the game for a hot minute, and just a rad-ass dude, man. And also, if you guys haven't checked out the Speed Kings podcast and the Speed Metal Build podcast with my buddy Jason, who's been on here quite a few times, Paul's done a few podcasts with these guys and a lot of really great content in those. So if you haven't heard those, check them out. You'll probably get more of a backstory of him. I think it's kind of hard to remember what we talked about in this podcast because it's been a while since I recorded it and had so many conversations since then. But I felt like we just shot the shit, and it was more of just a random conversation, and we saw where it went. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. I do remember that much. So anyway, check it out. Bare Knuckle Performance. Here it is. Let's do it.
Hey, guys. You ready to let the dogs out?
Fast Life Podcast.
That's the point, man. I think that the way to do this is to, I don't know. That's
just
it.
let it roll.
We already said this before. Ours is, of course, I set my beer back there for now, but we always said be yourself, not somebody that somebody wants to see.
Yeah, exactly. That's the scary thing about being yourself is sometimes it's fucked up.
Yeah.
So,
Dude, we're all fucked up.
dude,
All of us are fucked up.
Yeah, for sure. It's a good time though.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Well, we're here, dude. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for your patience, basically, because this has been a rough morning for me. Apparently, Warrenton, fucking Missouri, fucks, dude. It goes hard. So
I can vouch for that. I grew up there.
Applebee's is the spot.
If you say Applebee's is a spot, then it goes off.
Yeah. No, it was a good time, man. Man, I had a good time here last night. So, yeah.
Applebee's.
Good time yesterday, not so much today.
Yeah. So what's up, man? Like I said, I sucked at doing these in the beginning. I'm just playing. I'm still kind of fucked up in the head right now because of the
little sluggish.
I'm like, not thinking very well, I guess you'd say. So, yeah, man. But no, the shot, man, it's dope. It's
Thanks.
We were talking just now, and he's like, kind of my own advice for myself a long time ago, because when you're trying to take pictures of your bikes or your parts, you always want your background to kind of be scenic in a sense. Like you want it to complement. Like a mess sometimes looks cool when it's done. It's like an organized mess, if you will. You know what I mean? So,
so kind of being a little bit of a perfectionist, but a little bit of a machinist at the same time. I don't like mess. I don't like I like all the tools to be put up every night. I like the lift wiped down. I like the tools wiped down. But I get where you're coming from, so we like that organized chaos around here.
Yeah, it makes it look like...
Yeah, it's lived in.
Yeah.
I mean, literally lived in. We literally live here. So, yeah.
So I've always, you mentioned that at breakfast this morning, and it's like, I've always thought about doing that. Like, I love the aspect of being at work, but I like the drive to work, too. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like the stop at your gas station every morning and...
Get your head right.
Yeah, just kind of like see the world a little bit, see society kind of operating a little bit,
Yeah. I was like that until just this year, but it's really convenient to just get up and go to work.
Yeah.
And then when you're tired, go eat, go take a nap, go take a shower, and then there's a lot of times we'll come back down here and go back to work, or at least, he'll have an idea or I'll have an idea and we'll run down here and take some photos, or we'll, we do a lot of stuff on the 3D printer. Yeah. Prototyping and stuff, so we'll come down and print something.
That's cool.
It's pretty convenient. I get it though. It would be nice to have a little break in between the two, but honestly, I'm kind of loving it.
Long-term plan to do this, or you just think like a couple years or forever?
So long-term plan is hopefully keep that place. We got that apartment upstairs from here, and keep that place and have some place out in the middle of nowhere where I can get away every now and then. And
so this isn't out in the middle of nowhere,
right? No, this is way too many people for me. But no, we're talking about maybe buying something out in the mountains for like a little vacation spot or something.
Dope.
Yeah. So we'll probably. I don't have any reason to go anywhere. I love it up there. It's a really nice place. So
yeah. So like we were kind of talking earlier, and for all you listeners out there, the podcast that you did with Steve, I didn't get a chance to listen to the one with Jason. on the speed metal built yet. I was actually going to do it yesterday on the ride up here, but
He and I were drinking the whole time. It didn't.
it
started to spin out there at the end.
But no, the one that you did with Steve, man, it was a really good backstory on you guys. So,
Yeah.
you know, you listeners, if you want to know that, I would definitely check it out. I don't want to redo
I'll
the
give
same
the Cliff
thing.
Notes version on
Yeah.
it. So I'm Paul from Bare Knuckle Choppers, and this is CW. He's our marketing director. I started the place in 2003. Was working for somebody else. He wouldn't put me on full time, so I said, screw it, I'm going to go do my own thing. Started building frames. State of Missouri said you got to get out on your own. I did that. You know, the funny thing is people ask you about owning a business, you know, like what recommendations or advice can you give me? And I'm like, well, here's what I can tell you. If I had known what it was going to take, I would have been chicken shit and not done it. But not knowing, I went ahead and did it. I'm glad I didn't know, you know, because I'm here now, you know, and I've learned how to fight and stick through things. And, you know, we had a tornado knock a building down a couple years ago, which, again, I don't talk about that often because it was actually a blessing in disguise. You know, I don't need any pity about it. It was great.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of resets your whole world vision, you know, so and that also set us on a different path with the company. But, you know, so we started off making frames, branched out into, you know, we were spinning fenders, making springers. Everything was fabrication based.
Yeah, you said this on the podcast with Steve. So you were making a lot of the big wheel fenders for a lot of the
For Shope. Yeah,
Is
for
that
John.
what- okay.
Yeah, which John's.
So I had one of those in with the rib in the middle. On
Yep.
mine.
Yeah, which we were the only guys doing that, and they were super heavy, so you
Yeah.
didn't need a fork brace and all that kind of stuff, and inner you know,
Yeah.
fender bracing. Yeah, John's a good buddy of mine. Yeah, we were doing. Man, there were days where I would spin 100 fenders, and that's a workout.
Yeah, that's what you were saying on that podcast,
Yeah.
man. It's just like I don't have no idea, you know, how to do this shit. I bought a welder once,
Right.
and thought I was going to become a fabricator. That didn't last very long. So,
It takes some dedication.
yeah.
So everything we were doing was basically fabrication based, even though we did have CNC equipment. But like we had the CNC equipment basically for making our frame components and springer components and what have you. And around the time that we had that storm and we moved and everything, you know, I kind of stepped back and look at it. And I'm like, look, all the fabrication stuff has to have my fingerprints all over it. I got to be there checking the frame guys. I got to be there checking the welds. I got to be there. I had to do almost all the fender spinning, which was such a labor intense deal, you know. And what I need to be doing is running the business and coming up with new things and all that. And, you know, we had already started to shift into a little bit different market. You know, we're chopper guys at heart and always will be. That's not going to change. But you also have to stay with the times, and as the market shifts, you know, so you can still build your choppers, you got to still make money.
Yeah, exactly.
And, you know, that's why we're into a little bit of everything now. So sold all the frame fixtures, sold the Springer fixture, sold the spinning lathe, which is cool because it went to a good friend of mine in Louisville, Kentucky, Will from Faith Forgotten Choppers. And now just like, I think this weekend, Jordan from Union Speed is buying it. So it's kind of staying in the family. Yeah. So he's going to be making hot rod parts with it.
Where'd you come with the name Bare Knuckle Choppers, man?
When I decided I was going to open a bike shop, I made a big pad full of ideas. And, you know, I boxed a little bit when I was young.
Oh, for real?
So, you know, Bare Knuckle was the one that stuck out. It's got a cool, ring to it. You know, everybody thinks it's like your knuckles are bare from being a mechanic or something, but it's got to do with, you know, boxing.
Yeah, I mean, that and the logo that, I don't know if I see it up here, but I guess one of the shirts, it has like the rotor, like a rotary kind of, I don't fucking know.
There's a gear.
Gear.
Yeah.
And then it has like the dude boxing it, so it fits it. But you also said at breakfast you played football too or something?
Yeah, I played football in college. There's a small school here in St. Louis, and sometimes I wish I'd pursued that, but now the older I get, I'm glad I didn't because, man, those old injuries are coming back to
kick your ass.
really suck. Yeah, they hurt more now than they did then, that's for sure.
It seemed probably, like, did you get to travel a lot with that shit going
Yeah, quite a bit, yep.
For real? That's
yeah,
good.
Not as much as I did with the motorcycle stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like we were talking earlier, man, coming up, we started in 03. There was one year, maybe 07 or 08. I think I was out of town, which it doesn't sound like a lot to some of the guys listening, but to us, you know, being out of town 19 weeks out of the year, you know, when you got young kids at home, it's a lot. You know, dragging a trailer and a dually and the whole bit. There wasn't social media.
Yeah, I haven't even told my wife yet. I think I'm going to go to New York, so I'm trying to figure out how.
Right now.
Yeah, she don't listen to this, so I have to figure it out. But no, man, traveling is kind of like, it's also the thing that helped me expand my business because staying local so much, it really just keeps you local. When you start expanding and going further and making networks or networking with other businesses and shops and brands, I feel like that's the way to expand your business is to physically go places or spend at least a couple of years getting your face seen by all these different people everywhere. That way, you're just now there's a face to the name, basically.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, especially back then, you had to.
Yeah.
You know, we got started in 2004. I pulled out an ad in the Horse Backstreet Chopper magazine selling frames, and that's how we got known, was just by that ad. And then we had a website. And in that year, 04, maybe 03, 04, we started hitting the shows and everything. And, there was no social media. And the guys today the younger guys.
Didn't have a MySpace page?
We actually did. I forgot about MySpace.
Yeah.
Well, you are correct on the showing the face.
Yeah.
Sturgis was the first year that Paul's showed his face in
5 years.
5-6 years. And people were like, oh, shit, CW, you brought Paul out? I said, no, we came out. And they were like, oh, I didn't know he looked like that. I didn't know he was a monster and big. But he put a face on his name again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that's huge.
it took
It's
a while
huge.
to recover from, the stuff that went on with that storm and all that. And you can also get a little bit lazy with social media, because you're like, well, why do I need to go anywhere? Everybody sees all my stuff 5 minutes after I make it,
Sure.
But then there's nothing like going to Sturgis or, any of those big events or any of the good events. It doesn't have to be big, just any of those quality events.
What me and CW were talking about before you guys came back in here was remember the brand parts. Like when you start being more of a face of the brand, then more people want to buy the products because they know you. You know what I mean? Sometimes it might be sucky to say this, but sometimes it really isn't about the part. It's about, I want to fuck with this brand.
No, we
I
know
like
a
what
lot.
they do.
There's a lot of brands that are like that. There's
Yeah.
way more branding than there is actual quality.
And branding is a lifestyle. Lifestyles are
totally.
following somebody that you're wanting to not look like, be like, but
No, it's
you follow.
totally what it
You're
is.
into it all.
Just like we were talking earlier, like the guys that, they buy, whatever piece of apparel from their favorite, apparel people, and then they're posting up and tagging them. It's like they're tagging them because it would really make them feel good to get that repost and be seen in their, quote, heroes post, which I get it. And it's not.
It's like waving a flag, too. So, think about it. This is another thing that I think we were talking about at breakfast or kind of touching on it is that for, to have a Whoville Speed shirt on like you have or a Boosted Brad shirt on in a town where it's not like California or Phoenix.
Right.
You're waving a flag for anybody else out there. It's like, hey, I'm into this shit. If I'm looking for friends. I'm looking for like-minded individuals.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, I hadn't thought about it that way, but you're right.
You ever go to a movie or some shit and you see another dude in a Dixon flannel like, what?
Right.
Where, are you a lowrider guy, a C10 guy, or
Right.
what's your angle into this?
Or even if you see another one of Brad's shirts, or it's really cool when you see your own shirt and you're in a weird place where you wouldn't expect it. And it's just like, oh, damn, you know about them? Or you know about us? It's just, that's a cool, you're right.
More
it's like
people
waving a
into
flag.
the brand than you'll ever know.
Yeah.
Any brand of business, motorcycles, cars, trucks.
They're buying from you to advertise for you.
Right.
They're paying you to advertise your stuff. Really. You're getting something, but at the same time, you're also...
It's a weird thing, right? Because it is what it is. Like, you're advertising, but at the same time, you're also... For you, the buyer of that shirt or whatever, you're also still like me. Like I used to, when I first got a Harley, like I did what every other dude did. Oh, I got to get a Harley shirt from this dealership and that dealership.
Oh yeah.
And then eventually, you're like, man, I can't afford this shit anymore. These fucking shirts cost you
That's
damn much,
right.
whatever the case may be. But then you start hanging out with all these dudes, and it's like, man, I want to support that shop. Like I want to wear a Ramjet shirt or a Boosted Brad shirt. Like
$20, $25 out of your own pocket to support somebody that supports you.
But see, like the other thing that I try to push is the idea that sometimes that shirt is what keeps some parts of the industry going.
For sure.
You know what I mean? So
Yep.
it's, we don't have magazines anymore because of the internet, but it's also because advertisement didn't work as good in magazines as it does online now. Mm-hmm. Right. So now we don't have a magazine anymore that we can build bikes for to show off our work.
Right.
Yeah, but face.
But if you would have known, if everybody in the world would, I love magazines. I wish they were still here.
Yeah, so do I.
But
Yes.
if 10 years ago, there was this big campaign to say hey guys, we need more people to subscribe to these magazines. Otherwise they're going to be gone.
True.
And I think more people may have done that. You know what I mean? I know I would have been like, okay, I'll just stop buying at Barnes and Nobles. I just buy a whole.
Right.
For me, it was an experience. Like, fuck, I'm gonna go to Barnes and Nobles today and see what magazines are out.
Reminded you of being a little
buy all
kid.
10
Yeah.
of them.
For me, it reminded me of being a little kid, like to go get baseball cards or something like that when you were little. You know, you go and you just check the whole rack out.
Buy
It's
the
like,
whole
why am
rack.
I looking through all of them? I know I'm gonna buy every single one of them.
Exactly.
You know,
I'll go sit down with 5 magazines, look at it, then buy it, and then go home and never look at it again.
Yeah, you have the 5 magazines though.
hell, man, I'd read them all front to back. Yeah. I'd read all the product reviews. I mean, I'd read them all at least once.
So when I was growing up, though, like with the paint stuff, I used to buy magazines and like look at paint jobs. That was helped me kind of
inspiration.
Yeah, because like I said, MySpace and like even early days of Facebook, it wasn't so much like nobody really used it as a tool to advertise. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like at least not in the bike world very much. I think it started kind of happening with Facebook, and then Instagram just catapulted it to another level, right? So magazines were like the only place that I remember going to fucking lowrider shows with like a wind-up camera, and then getting it developed, and I would just take pictures of paint jobs so I can go home and study it.
That's right.
Just like, did you see all those old trucks going by when we were sitting at Waffle House? So there's like an old truck, like old tractor trailer. Yeah, there's like a show going on, and he and I were like, after the podcast, let's go check that out, because I literally can find inspiration in any, like, you know, those big trucks, they've got killer paint jobs, you know, chrome out the wazoo, you know, and you can find cool stuff anywhere, especially if you go to like an old airplane thing, you know, like we can find inspiration anywhere if you're looking right, and if you got your mind in the right place.
I find color schemes, you know, people, you know, I get a lot of questions just like you guys get about, you know, how do I get in this, blah, blah, blah. Or where do the craziest question is, how do you be creative? You know, dudes ask me that. But I was like, man, I could be looking in a fucking Cosmopolitan magazine or some shit and see an ad for something that has nothing to do with me, but the colors of they use on the ads, like, fuck, that's...
Yes, sir.
I see that in the paint
Never
job.
thought about that.
Yeah. So
best.
you find a lot of different, even logos. Like I used to draw a lot of my own logos, which I'm fucking lazy with it now. But I would see a logo and something else. I love how that logo's centered, or it's this, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, angles and cuts.
So yeah, dude, find inspiration everywhere. You know what I mean?
I don't get that I'm like, it's so hard for me to draw, or, you know, like
how do
my
you,
painters.
How do you do that though? Like to take a block like those blocks over there, and shave it down to something 3-dimensional. Like how do you even envision
So
that?
when I got started with this, it would be a lot of drawings on paper, and then I sat and I was never taught to be a machinist. I wouldn't even call myself a machinist, because that's an actual insult to real machinists. You know, it's like I'm kind of a designer, and I'm not, you know, specifically even taught that. I just sat down in front of the computer and started to teach myself, you know, different kinds of software. And so that's my medium. Is it, you know, it seems like cheating to some people because you're using a computer, but let's be honest, when was the last time you got tattooed and the tattoo artist didn't have his iPad right there as his, you know, he's drawing it on there and then putting it on your skin? You know, that's the world we live in. So I sit there in front of the computer, and like, we've been working on a project I'll probably show you in a minute. We printed off kind of a preliminary, you know, idea. I'll sit there and I'll draw it and draw it and draw it, and, you know, change things, and I'll have, you know, 15 different versions, and then I'll start printing some of them.
Yeah.
And then when you get it in your hands, I mean, the 3D printer is such a little cheat sheet, you know, it's just, it's killer. And then you can take it and put it up next to the bike and take a look at it and go, okay, well, this is too big, this is too small, let's change this. So that's for my creativity. Now, CW, on the other hand, he's a whole different animal, because he's an actual artist.
Animal.
And he's as he calls himself, he's a crackhead.
My head spins all day long.
He's all day
and it's always
going, man.
something if I'm yelling at him saying, hey. He might like 3 out of the 10, but I yelled all 10 at him.
And the ideas that come out of him are just about anything.
Well, it's good to have like that balance too, because if you get around the right people, they can be very inspiring to you, and they can motivate you to be creative. You know what I'm saying? So like when I'm around certain friends, you know, you like business wise, you start talking about, and you just get pumped like, fuck, dude, I'm gonna go start a fucking business tonight. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it's like the kind of energy you want to do anything though. You want to have that kind of
for sure
motivation before you start going down a path. You know what I mean?
That's how we met.
Yeah.
Just in March, and here I am.
Yeah.
All the way from Virginia Beach, my whole life. In 3 weeks' time, Sturgis.
Yeah.
Back home, here, back home, Sturgis. Then here I am.
Now he's here for good.
For good, just like that, because we're all inspired. We go to work to buy motorcycle parts, and he offers me a job to work in the motorcycle parts business. Why wouldn't I? This is what we love to do, what we do every day. You can save your paycheck all week and buy this, or you can work in this. and be around it all day
Yeah.
And still spend your paycheck
and
on
still
it.
spend your paycheck on it. But anyways,
Well, you know, being in the motorcycle industry, whatever facet of it you're in, it's all passion based, man.
passion.
100%.
And that's why, like, I think we were kind of talking about this earlier, which I don't know how we should talk about it, but for me, when I get around, you know, I try not to shed any light on this podcast to people that I don't feel like are passionate, right?
Right.
There's a million shops that are here. I always say they're kind of here to rape and pillage our industry, and then
Yep.
whenever it dries up, they're on to something else, right?
Yep.
And
Used car salesman.
yeah,
Yeah.
And the thing is that, like, it takes away from the real passionate people that are actually adding value to this industry. And, you know, I try not to shed that light on those guys, but, you know, it's just, I fucking forgot where I was going. I'm almost done with this hangover.
We're
It's
not
almost
punching
gone.
in from 9 to 5
Yeah.
as the passion.
Yeah.
Well, and what you lack with the guys that aren't passionate, that are here to, well, not even, before I even say that, those guys that come into our business and we know them, you know, there's guys that we saw, you know, you've been as long or longer than me, Jace. Those dudes that, you know, 10, 12, 15 years ago that came in and bought the big truck or even a tractor trailer, there's a couple that come to mind. A couple of them got arrested and went to jail and had all their shit taken from them. It's like,
Yeah.
what those people did put such a bad taste in the industry's mouth, or in our clientele base.
Exactly.
Put such a bad taste in their mouth that it really fucks us down the road.
Yeah.
To where they're like, well, I'm not going to go and spend, you know, 40 grand on a bike with you because I spent 80 grand with this guy, you know, 10 years ago and he stole all my money. It's like, well, number one, for that 80 grand, you weren't getting nothing out of that dude. He was bolting a bunch of stuff together and putting a
Yeah.
paint job on it, and we build everything by hand, you know, so on and so forth, and you get an honest price from us. And our bikes run, our parts don't break, you know,
Yeah.
but that guy, you know, it's just like anything, you know, we ship 100 some odd boxes a week, and everybody's happy. We got our stuff so fast, you know, everything's great. But you get that one customer that's unhappy. We drop the ball sometimes.
Yeah.
We all do. You know, we're all human. We make a mistake, or the wrong thing gets sent out, or just whatever may happen. An order gets mixed up. That one guy can leave such a bad taste in everybody's mouth, or just, you know, harm your reputation so much. You really got to be on your game. Yeah, we may need to close that door.
No, it's all good. I just didn't. It sounded like a TV was on or something. No, it's all good.
So, but it's like when you're trying so hard, you know, to keep your reputation and, you know, to deliver on your promises. That's really what it is. It's not your reputation. That's secondary. Delivering on your promises is what's important. When you're trying so hard to do that every day, and then some other asshole or group of assholes in the industry come along and they just completely shit all over all of us, it's like, well, damn, dude, how do we come back from that? How do we keep that from happening again? And that kind of leads us into the discussion we had out on the dock about, you know, tough times like this when we're all helping one another and stay strong,
Yeah.
and, you know, we can let all the other stuff fall away.
So every time, for lack of a better term, a genre of a bike or a scene comes along,
Sure.
right?
Trend.
It has a trend. It has you know, people are going to get inspired by it and come in. Like, so there are a lot of people that came in through the big wheel bagger phase that found their passion for motorcycles and building them, and now have started to evolve into other areas of
Sure.
motorcycling. I love that.
Absolutely.
But when they evolve into a stereo shop, and then the bikes turn from bikes to slingshots, like, you were never into bikes.
Right.
Like, you were just,
yeah,
it was just,
you're right,
it was
man.
a
That's
fad.
a great way to put it too. I hadn't thought about it that way.
So, like, you know, I talk a lot of shit about big wheel baggers, but only because I owned and painted and built a lot of them.
right.
And once the scene got clownish, that's what ruined it for me. And I found a new passion for motorcycles in Dynas, FXRs. I want a chopper, but, you know, I also come from fuel injection,
Right.
so it kind of like, you know, but so, you know, like, I see all that stuff, and, you know, like, I'm gonna have DA Performance on, right? They kind of started in the big wheel thing, I believe. I could be wrong, but they've built some really amazing bikes, in my opinion, in the big wheel stuff, and now they're evolving into more of a performance based brand, which I dig.
Yep.
But then there's a lot of other shops too that I feel were a bike shop. Then the stereo thing became the big deal, and now they're just doing stereos. Like, they went
they
from a
used
drag parts to a Stinger catalog or some shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's not. So when you talk about the big wheel baggers, it's just like we were talking earlier. You can, a lot of those. It's not my kind of bike. I don't care for it. But at the same time, I can look at them and I can definitely find inspiration, and, you know, you can appreciate top-notch craftsmanship and fabrication and paint work. I mean, there's not much bigger canvas for you painters than a big wheel bagger bike.
Unfortunately, it wasn't the biggest paint job or the biggest paying jobs ever. But it's crazy when choppers were at their height. You can get $9,000 to paint a chopper, which is a tank, usually a frame and fender, oil tank. $9,000
out the door,
the door, and then the big wheel bagger thing came in. All of a sudden, like the going rate across the country was $3,500.
That's crazy.
Dude, what you guys go through. So I'm really good. We've got, basically two painters. Scott Takis at Underground Art Studios.
Yeah.
That's our primary painter. And then Darren at Liquid Illusions. But I watch what those guys go through.
It's
and then
tough.
I don't make any money off the paint jobs. Like if we do a bike for somebody, I'm like, here's your painter, talk to the painter.
Yeah.
And then they work it out, the money. I'm not, you don't want to. Everybody else is like, okay, we're paying them $3,500, but we're charging $4,500. I don't do that. I'm like, you go deal with the painter because I don't want part of his money.
I never had a problem when I dealt with a lot of shops with them making money on it, because I look at it like, imagine if my paint job is also in this drag catalog and you're getting your 20%. I was always good with 20. 30% was kind of pushing it, because you're also getting paid to take it apart, put it together,
put it in the mail.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but then it got to a point with some shops where once Instagram came and and my stuff started having a big following, I would have a bigger following than most of the bike shops I did work for.
Yeah.
So when the customers found out that the Fast Life Garage was painting the bike, they would immediately hit me up on Instagram, and now we're friends. And all of a sudden I'm like, they're like, yeah, man, it's crazy, man. This is a $9,000 paint job. I never thought I'd do it, but I'm so excited to have your work. I'm like, $9,000? This dude told me he had $3,500 to paint this. Some shops would do almost 150% markup.
That's dirty. That's why I don't do it, because I'd rather see Scott get all that money, because I see the amount of work that Scott and yourself and Darren and all these other people put into it. I'm like, just looking at the materials list, I'm like, God damn, man, that's a lot of money.
I mean, I haven't really been able to have a painter on in a while, but that's kind of one of the things that's kind of looming in our industry that's going to make it very complicated for us to do big projects. Like, I ride a bagger. I don't like painting them because it costs me so much money, and for me to make the money for the time I have in it, it has to be $10,000 or more, right?
All day long.
It's very hard to sell $10,000 paint jobs.
Yep.
You know what I mean? There are people out there, but if you spent $10,000 on the bike, fortunately my buddy Aaron does, and he rides it, so he's okay with getting a chip and things like that. But most people are like, nah, this thing's getting in a fucking trailer.
Set aside.
Right.
So here I am in performance baggers, which are the whole consistency is riding these things and having fun on it.
Right.
And it's not gonna. I'm not gonna get that kind of stuff.
But it's a weird juxtaposition to put yourself in.
But like the back on what we were talking about with the people. So I've been kind of thinking about this for a while, and maybe it'll make some sense. I might butcher it, but I feel like growing up, I always felt in this industry, I always felt like it's kind of like the people that were here before me, like the Covingtons and the Nesses, are like the parents. Like they're the ones that have this figured out. And now it's at a point now where it's like, okay, now we're kind of that guy.
I know, man.
And we're the ones that are supposed to be steering this industry in the direction that we want it to be.
Now the kids need some more parents.
Yeah.
That's
kind of where we're at now.
If we don't teach, or you don't teach, and he doesn't teach, there will be no kids in this industry.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things I told you I wanted to save for being on the podcast was, so my 18-year-old son works here, and you could tell there was a difference. It was pretty much when he started riding his own bike. Mm-hmm. He, like a switch flip. This was always just a job to him. He did not want to do it. He's like, I'm not going to work for you for long. I'm like, all right, whatever. So there was never like, I'm going to pass it on to him, any of that kind of stuff. I always knew it was just going to be what it is. Well, now he's got extreme passion for it. Yeah. Great ideas and all this. And so what we're looking at with him is, we're talking to some bigger companies, and we'll see what happens. Harley hasn't done it. I mean, Indian hasn't done it. Kawasaki hasn't done it. Like, who's going to get these young kids into bikes?
So I've actually got a good argument for that. I think Harley did do it. I think that they just don't realize that it's taking place right now.
Do you think they did it, or they did it too late?
They didn't do it.
I think
it naturally happened. I think there's more people now, younger, riding Harleys than ever in my entire life. For sure.
They say millennials are less, like the studies they've done or whatever, whoever they are, say that there's less, like the well, the youngest age group, which I guess is millennials, which sounds like a bad word these days, but it says the millennials are less interested in motorcycles than the 2 generations before them.
True. So the thing is, like, I'm technically a millennial. I'm born in '82. I'm the first year of it, and my brother is 13 years younger than me, and he's the last year millennial.
Okay.
So he was on a Harley at 18 years old. I've bought 4 Harleys in the last 10 years, brand new from the dealership. So, and I'm just 2 people, right? But there's all this shit going on. You got the unknown craze that happened across America where the dirt bike kids turned into Harley kids.
And
They got beat up on dirt bikes.
Yeah, so it's
and
weird
the crotch
how
rocket guys, like, St. Louis is known for the street fighters, and
they're
we're
on
supposed to be
Harleys now.
we're supposed to be the stunt.
So with
capital
more
of the world.
people riding these Harleys now, and
but are those young guys? Would you consider them young guys though?
I think that
Young guys, I'm thinking, is like under 30.
well, I think for sure, yeah. I think right now we've probably got the most young people riding bikes. Now, when you're looking at the numbers that corporations are expecting and they get worried about, like, yeah, dude, you're fucking out of line. Like, you're never going to have those kind of numbers. That's just not what it is. But bikes, I mean, I feel like that it is there. I mean, like, so the Road Glide, right? You said you're not really into the baggers as much, but you understand it. You understand what it is. It's basically a dyno with touring accessories, right? So you take some of the parts that come on those bikes. If they just like the Harley came with like the LED lights that I have in the headlight, it would probably be more attractive to the more younger generations because it would look like you would have that Harley tradition look, but then there's some like parts of it that feel more modern, right?
Right.
And I think that's what they want is they want modern twists on these old bikes. And I think that while I love it because it leaves it a blank canvas for us to create all the parts and the paint and the things that make it ours, I think those kind of simple upgrades is going to be the things that help sell those bikes in the future.
For sure. So 2 points I would make about that, and one I hadn't really even thought about until now, so I'll probably touch on it first before I forget about it, which I'm already starting to forget about it. But anyhow, maybe I'm hungover too. So maybe because if we think about it this way, we come from a little bit different era.
Yeah.
We were all a lot more hands-on. We were all a lot more, let's make it ourselves. And the generation before us, like those dudes building choppers in, the 50s, 60s, 70s, there was no catalog. There was nowhere where you just go buy something.
You were inspired by the people that you saw.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But today's generation, these kids, it's such a now, I want it now. Like, they're not going to take the time to buy a shovelhead or a panhead or an old Ironhead Sportster and turn it into something cool. They want something that rolls off the line. It's already cool and it's done. And of course, along with that comes the fact that their interpretation of cool is different than what ours was.
Yeah.
Like, I get that part. I know they tried with the Street 750 and some of the new bikes, but for a lot of these kids, those bikes are so big and so far from what I think. The natural progression is dirt bike, small street bike, bigger street bike, Harley.
Yeah, that was
somewhere
my
in
progression.
there. Right,
Yeah.
for most of us, right? It's such a jump, though, for a 20-year-old kid that may or may not have ever ridden a dirt bike to get on a Road Glide, to get on a 900-pound bike.
Think about how many dynos were made from 91 till, 16, right?
Yeah, 17.
Dude, I've bought fucking dope-ass lowriders fucking probably like that year. Yeah. What year is that one?
01.
Yeah, 01. Dude, fucking down in Texas, I find them all day long for $2,500.
Oh, I know.
So I've bought those things, ripped them around. These kids are doing the same thing. The problem is that they're not buying new bikes, which I get. You know what I mean? And that's where Harley and these corporations, like, we got to get new people on bikes, but I don't feel like nobody did that shit back in the day either. I didn't see any 20-year-olds waiting in line
on the baby boomers. They depended on the baby boomers from the 70s until the last 10 years.
Like
now the boomers aren't buying any more bikes.
Like you did here, like I've done, like everybody. You have to build a business that's like a slinky or like a. It's got to be able to scale when it needs to and scale back when it needs to.
Yep.
Instead of looking at everything as like this forward progression of more every year. It's like, no, man, just dial it back when things are slow. That way you still operate and you can live within your means. And then as things start to pick up, then scale it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, don't
Keep
ever
it like
overextend,
that. And I think that Harley has a good thing right now. But, my buddy Adam Sandoval put a video out that I watched, and he was talking about the 5 mistakes.
Adam's a good dude.
Yeah, the 5 mistakes that Harley's making right now marketing. And it sucks to say, but I'm really good friends now with the brand director, but I don't know how much. He's very smart. When I talk to him, I always tell him, like, you're you're like the kingpin drug dealer of marketing, right? I'm like a street level marketer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like when he talks about he's trying to like change mass appeal, public appeal about their brand. Well, I think that in a sense, maybe Harley's looking too big of marketing, and so that's why they're not maybe hitting their marks. When if they took all that money they make and started doling it out in the smaller
I
niches,
agree with that.
it would kind of work better at a ground level. Like instead of, like they just need to be dealing with guys like Adam Sandoval, maybe podcasts, which they won't, I say fag too much, so they won't bring it on, but you know what I mean? Like that's where they need to be at. They need to start looking, instead of hiring Jason Momoa and paying this dude $20 million or $10 million to be a face of it. It's like, first off, I don't fucking want it. Like, seeing that dude doesn't make me want to fucking buy a Harley. Like, he's like a chick's thing. You know what I mean? Like, he should be, maybe use him on the ads to sell Sportsters or some shit. I don't fucking know.
I feel like you're going to say fag again soon.
No, I'm just glad you said it too, so I'm not the only one. But no,
we're very not PC around here. You're good.
But, so it's a weird one, man. It's really weird to.
Do you remember the Dark Customs book they had 10 years ago?
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's just like, I see that they're trying and they're putting money into it, but it's like, could you be any further off?
Yeah.
Like, I get it, because it was right after all that, the backstreet, the horse kind of stuff with, a little bit more.
When they tried to come out with what was the bike with the damn seat cow, or the seat that was raised up? That was
a breaker or
it was
rocker.
Like the rocker. So that was like their chopper.
Right. Well, maybe that'll be like the first Super Glide. Willie G's, what was it, the 71 Super Glide or whatever with the boat tail fender. He's like, that was their chopper entry. And, like maybe those will be collectible
like
someday.
5 years off, you know what I mean?
Right. So those are super collectible now, laughed at back then. I don't know that the rocker is going to be collectible ever. But
I don't even think we can use the motor out of that for anything. Maybe just completely build a whole frame around it. But no, the bikes are dope, and like I said, there's so many used
bikes.
Those
new Softails, man, are badass. I was so surprised. I'm like, oh goddamn, man, we gotta do something with that. That's why there's one sitting right there next to you.
They're good bikes, man. I remember when they first came out was kind of right around the time we started doing the podcast, and we, like everybody else, was making fun of the name Softail because they should have called it something else. But as time has progressed, man, these bikes they're a really good deal. There's quite a bit of used ones, so you can pick up a lowrider fairly cheap, $10,000.
New ones are 13.
Yeah,
the standard's $13,000. I mean, that's a lot of. And what I love about it is it leaves a lot of room for improvement, which keeps me in business. There's a lot of stuff you can do to do them better.
The identity of motorcycles is, I think, what maybe you have to find a way to inspire people, and that's how they're going to get. They're going to get the younger crowd, is to make this feel like they're buying into a lifestyle. Everybody wants to be in a team, man. Like that's everything. For
sure.
And right now, everybody they're not doing it, so they're falling into these like political teams, right? And things like that, which is crazy. But
too much.
As like the thing I love about the bikes is like what we've all talked about is like your friends group is a roofer that owns a roofing company, and then next thing you know, this other dude is a fucking dentist or a goddamn banker. Right. You know what I mean? Like we would never. If we all walked in a bar without our helmets, we would never talk to each other. Right. We would never be friends, probably. Right. I mean, but that bike becomes that icebreaker to make friends.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
Yep, 100%. That's why I always say, like, you put me on any kind of motorcycle, I don't care what it is, from a mini bike to a bagger to an adventure bike to anything. Yeah. You're gonna be smiling.
I might pay to watch you be on a mini bike.
I'm deadly on a mini bike. But you're going to be smiling. Like, how can you not? And so, like, why wouldn't you want to go do that with your buddies? And, yeah, it's definitely a very tight common thread that, those that are into it, I mean, it's tight, like.
So at the same time, like I said, for me, I'm starting to feel the responsibility of, with my brand that I've built, how do I inspire more people to come on and build bikes or like bikes? That way, you want to leave the industry better than you found it, basically. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of what I think a lot of us are doing now, like your brand and a lot of the shops that are kind of embracing the podcast, the social media, all these new things that we have to use to be in business.
It's like learning all over again. I was talking to Brandon at Speed Merchant a year or two ago, and this stuck with me. He's like, Paul, we're dinosaurs. He's like, we got to learn all this, the social media, and like what we were talking with Steve from speaking the other day, he's like, so he has done so well with the social media marketing and just the whole, and I've ignored it.
Yeah.
Like if you go back through our feed on Instagram, there's been months where I didn't post anything.
Yeah.
And now I'm playing catch up. And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, you need to post 3, 4, 5 times a day. I'm like, oh my God. Like, I don't have time to, and because I get so focused on what I'm doing. And I mean, it's like tunnel vision. When I'm on a new project, it's all I'm thinking about.
Sometimes like machinists, this type of stuff is probably visually acceptable, but there's a lot of people in our industry that don't have a photogenic product or service, right?
That's for sure.
And it becomes pretty hard for them to
that can be
build
true
it.
for us, because a lot of our parts, we can put up a killer new product with great photography, and the release is well worded, and it'll get 200 or 300 likes. And I'm like, what the fuck, man? But then you'll put up a picture of a bike, right? You or just a picture of a bike that people have seen for the last 10 years, and you still get 1,200 likes.
So what I tell
it's
people
really
all the
tough for
time,
us.
with social media and the numbers and stuff, is like to not get wrapped up in it,
right?
Because I made some of the best things that ever happened to me as far as like opportunities. Some of the best ones always came with like when I had 1,200 followers. You know what I mean?
That's for sure, because you weren't wrapped up or worried about
Well,
it.
and we compare this stuff daily. CW and I do. We sit and we look at what's going on in the business and everything, and it's like, so we have X amount of followers, and the next guy has that many times 3.
Yeah.
But average likes and shares and the insights, we're doing better than they are.
That's a lot. I know a lot of 100,000 pages that get
Where you're like, man, who's even
300 likes. I'm like, yeah, come on, dude.
right?
It's like
same.
So, but the thing is that you can buy 10,000 followers for $100.
Everybody's doing that.
I don't.
Not everybody.
I don't want that
We're not.
vibe. You know what I mean?
No, I don't either. That's
Saying
just
we want
So
that.
the thing you were saying about like learning this stuff, and I was just having this conversation with my wife, or no, somebody. I've been talking. I talk too much. That's why it's like I don't know who the fuck I said it to, but I have to be aware. We all have to be aware. So as new social media things come out, like I'm not really into that TikTok shit, that video stuff. I don't really see the business aspect of how it can benefit us, but you have to be hip to all these things. That way you can move into that space and be ready. So the thing right now, we were saying earlier, like when YouTube first came out, like it was pretty complicated for people to make videos. You had to have cameras and computers. Now your phone can do it. Now, like, since that's a place where so many people do it, most camera companies are making like this camera, like they have it set up so that you can be a vlogger. Hey guys, welcome to the you know what I mean? So
no kidding.
It's all set up. Everything's kind of made nowadays to make that easier. So the same thing that's happening with podcasts. When we first started doing it, this is my first recorder here. This is for music.
That's right.
Right? Now, since then, Rode, these are podcast microphones that are specifically designed for podcasting. And like Steve's, he's got the
little board.
I got the same one. They're designed for podcasting. Now that it's becoming more mainstream, these companies that make the products are making products specifically for it, so it's easier to do now. So the same thing with videos, it's the same concept. Now, on your phone or your iPad or whatever, you can edit videos, put them on YouTube. It's just going to get easier to do it.
Yeah.
And at some point now it's easy enough to where like, hey dude, you're gonna have to figure this out and start doing it.
Yeah.
That's where we're at.
That dude, it's so time consuming.
It is. Especially when you're playing catch up like us.
Yeah.
We've got the product to back everything up. We've got product for days. It's just, we got to get more people we got to get out in front of more people, and we're trying to do it the right way too. We don't want to get into any of the big catalogs where you kind of sell your soul, or you have to start making stuff overseas, which we will never do.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of I got to shift my mindset from creating more product to creating more customer base and just getting the word out.
Yeah.
So that's why I hired CW, and that's what he's here for, and he's already done a great job of it, and we haven't even really gotten started. But I can't shut off the ideas either. Hell, me and him and my boy were in here. What was it, 11, 12 o'clock the other night, and we were working on a peg idea. I told you there was an idea that we're working on. We're working on a peg idea because we had some, so what we do with our parts, and you probably heard
Steve was in town.
Yeah,
it was actually the same night we had.
It was the same night. He was already in bed. So we try to, and I said this on Steve's podcast, we won't make a part just to make a part. We have to either solve a new problem or have something that sets us apart, not just that ours looks different. So we had an idea on how to set this particular peg apart. Okay, great. So we printed up a couple versions of it, and we're sitting there talking. Then CW had an idea, well, what about if we do this? And then Sam was like, my son was like, well, what if we do this? And I'm like, oh, but if we did this, then this and this and this is interchangeable, and you buy one piece and it turns into 3 other pieces. So it's just cool how, late o'clock, like living here at the shop, it's 11, 12 o'clock at night, and 3 people come in and put their heads together, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, this was gonna be cool, but now this is badass. Now we got a product.
That's I mean, like when you came out with those risers earlier this year, and you said on Steve's podcast that you had been sitting on that for a while.
Been a good year or so.
You know, those kind of products come out, and it's like, oh shit, like that's kind of game changers, and I think it makes it like you said, but it's got to be hard, like looking at a bike sometimes and be like, okay, what can I make for this? How can I, make someone's life easier by owning this or whatever the case may be,
And you don't know what else is going on. So when we had that Softail in Sturgis, we're sitting there looking it all over, like what'll be the first parts we make for it? And we're like, because his oil cooler was already starting to get dented up. I'm like, let's make an oil cooler guard. Then we kind of mapped it out how we were going to do it. And we come home and I got to work on it pretty quick.
Yeah, right up.
And then we see that, DLX comes out with one. It's a lot different than ours. And then even Steve from Speed King had one. His is a 3D printed version.
Yeah.
And his is different too. It doesn't cover the whole thing like ours does. Both quality products from 2 quality groups of people. Ours is just different, but it's different enough.
But that's what we need in the industry, so that our bikes, so that our bikes can be, like tastefully different, right?
For sure.
If it was only one dude making pegs, one dude making risers, one dude making this,
be boring.
Every bike would be the same, and there would be no creativity in it.
And CW is trying to reel me in from my thing where I'm like, everything has to be completely different. He's like, well, it doesn't. You can also include, your styling can be different, or you can, because I'm just like, no, so and so makes that, I'm not going to mess with it. And we've all been ripped off by other, the bottom feeders in the industry so many times that I'm not going to go down that road where somebody says I ripped them off. I'm not going to, because I don't have any reason to rip anybody off. I don't have any desire. I'm not ever going to do it. So that's why I'm like, I'm not going to touch anything unless I can come up with something that's
I feel like a lot of people that rip people off are people that haven't been around through different iterations of this motorcycle scene or motorcycle industry, right?
I agree with that. And I also, so what I always question is like, okay, you're making money off it, but when I create something, I can hold my head high and I'm proud of it. If you just knock somebody else's stuff off, how do you?
Yeah.
I couldn't even take a picture of it and say, hey, you can buy these from me. Paul did all the work, or Brad did all the work, or whoever it might be, but here, buy it from me.
Yeah, and man, talking with people on the podcast, some people are very adamant about like they feel like their product should be the only one out there. You know what I mean? Which is understandable from like a very cutthroat competitive margin, but I try to explain to people all the time, it's like, man, like we need variety. That's what makes these things different.
Absolutely.
And that's what makes bikes cool, is when you take something and you make it different.
Right. That's why people come to you for a paint job.
Yeah, you want to
that's why
not be the same as
we're not
everybody else.
rocking the same, CVO paint job.
Exactly.
And that's why different colors, different color combinations, different fasteners, everybody wants something a little bit different. And we've all heard it, healthy competition, it's good for everybody, whatever. Like, I want my guys to do well and keep pushing me.
Yeah.
And I want to push them.
Exactly.
Come up with something new, make me go, like, there's been some products lately where I'm like, damn it, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You get a little bit, not jealous, but envious.
Yeah.
You're like, son of a
I do that with
bitch.
paint
That's
jobs.
so
Every
obvious.
once in a while, someone will do a paint job. I'm like, fuck, dude. Like,
Right.
that was on. It was like when you're trying to think of a word or a name. Like, dude, it's right there, but then you did it, and now I'm fucked.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
It's the same thing for us painters, man. But at the same time, like,
man, you guys got it. It's tough for you guys. Not even talking about what we talked about earlier, but just the creativity side of it. There's only so many ways to skin that cat.
If I was gonna bitch about it, because most of the industry never looked at painters like they look at bike shops, because traditionally a lot of painters would paint anything, right? So we never got the great rap of like we're a pivotal point of the industry.
Yeah, sure.
Like
we're in the back.
we're important for this industry. So we never really get the same kind of love when it comes to damn near anything, right? But now with the world getting so big, it's easy for painters to just be bike painters, or just be helmet painters, or those things. And so now I feel like we're a very, very big part of the industry now, and I'm that's why I try to have the podcast with guys on. But I would like to see more powers that be shed some light on the painters, because we make the most visual part of the bike.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So it's like, for years and years and years, I watched painters just getting barely an honorable mention in magazines, an honorable mention on fucking biker build-off TV shows, and then, now.
I mean, if you were going to say, I want my bike to look different from everybody else's, there's nothing that changes the impact of the bike more than the paint.
Yeah.
You can go painting and maybe, wheels, probably. Same with cars, you can
unless
change
you're
the
making your
on a
own
car.
wheels, then you're going to have another set of wheels that somebody else
But
makes.
the paint is what...
You
That's
walk
the
up
very
to
first
bike,
thing.
You see a bike a mile away that's orange and yellow. And
The paint can make or break a bike, 100%.
Absolutely, man.
Right
Like
or
even
wrong.
in the biker build-off days, like some of those guys I think would have won because their bike was better and their talent was better, but the paint sucked.
So, like, the one that I sanded that was on Biker Build Off was the Matt Hodge versus Rick Fairless one. And I always remember this quote that, Matt Hodge said that I build a badass bike and I don't want to cover up all my work with paint. And then Rick's a good friend of mine and a good dude, but, Rick is like a wild paint kind of guy because,
Sure.
I mean, at the end of the day, if those two bikes are sitting in a parking lot, people like you that know the intricacies of building a bike are going to look at Matt Hodge's bike and nerd
That
out
dude's
on it.
nuts.
And
That
then you're
dude's
going to
off
look
the
at, and then the
hook,
people
man.
that are like just normal people that
Right.
don't have much of an investment in this is going to be allured towards Rick's bike because
sure.
of the colors and
Catches
the
your eye.
Exactly. So there's two things you do there, right? So
Right.
it's always been that way. And that, I mean, think about it, like right now with FXRs and even Dynas, people want that OG factory shit. You know what I mean? It's the hottest thing.
Right.
And that's cool because
I like it.
I dig it too. I mean, especially when they leave it original but change the colors, which is kind of what we're doing on his FXR. I dig it.
Oh, I love that.
It's kind of, it's crazy when like you do a simple paint job that you didn't even have to sketch because it's an original paint job, and you get
Right.
more love on Instagram than the one that you were at 3 a.m. with markers coloring and you're wadding up paper and there's a fucking mountain of paper of ideas.
That's perfect example.
That's exactly what it's like.
Your $9,000 paint job instead of 20 is less time, same amount of money, and you're done with it.
Yeah.
That knucklehead of mine, I had that thing ready for paint. And I stepped back and look at it, and I tore the whole thing down, and I took it back to the frame jig, and I cut 2 inches out of the back, and I lowered it 1 inch. It was ready for paint.
Damn.
And I took it and cut the whole thing apart. That was my pile of paper, which we've done that 100 times too, But
Yeah.
that one was pretty extreme. That was,
See,
but that's the passion.
Yeah.
Because I could have wheeled it out, and probably not many people would have said, if you just shortened it here and lowered it there, it'd look better. But that's where the passion, just the same for
Yeah,
you, man. Like, and
exactly.
you know what? It's easy to mess up that factory looking paint job.
It is.
It's easy, and it's got to be perfect.
Well, the real truth is I'm not really a great painter. So
I don't know about that.
no. Like if you said, "Hey man, can you paint my car silver?" Nope. I'm not a painter like that. Like I started in that place, but because I haven't painted a hood or a bumper in probably 10 years,
Right.
that I don't paint big surfaces like that. So there's a skill into being
I
able to
get
keep it
I
clean.
see what you're saying.
So even sometimes like when I candy bikes, I'm like, fuck man, like good thing it's going graphics over this motherfucker.
Cover up, overlay, cover up. That meant to go there. Yeah.
So I fuck up too, man. But custom paint is like, it's like you get to hide a lot of shit. So sometimes
I've
those
always
original
said-
paint jobs are harder to pull off because they have to be perfect.
I've always said you guys are the most unsung heroes of this whole thing. I don't know how you do it, man. Passion, and
Yeah.
the love. I get it.
It's weird because it's like an ego thing too, man. Like
Oh yeah.
think about it. It's the same thing if you build a badass bike and everybody's kind of sweating your nuts about it. Like you take it to a bike night or a bike show. It's hard for that shit not to go to your head,
Yeah.
And I mean, I went through it, first off, like I grew up playing basketball, so I grew up talking shit. And even if I wasn't good, I had to talk shit like I was good.
Yeah.
And so that same mentality followed me into paint. And so when I'm around my buddies, I talk shit,
Oh yeah.
And then-
you ought to be around here during work.
Yeah.
Dude, my son will wear you out. A little 18-year-old smartass, and it comes from the same place.
Yeah.
I came, basketball and football. Both I played both in college actually, and just more football. And then that's just who we are.
Please
though.
tell me you can dunk.
I could. I don't know if I can anymore. Oh, I could flat-footed dunk back then. I can just stand under it and.
Damn, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yep.
If
I
could-
haven't even tried to. I probably couldn't jump over a 2x4 now.
Or probably bounce a basketball.
No, I definitely couldn't do that. That's why I quit playing basketball.
Dude, that was
in college,
I
'cause
started
got-
playing again last year, trying to get some kind of exercise in, and my I was always very, very coordinated, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden now I'm trying to do like the movement's there.
Right.
I remember how to do it, but the shit don't go like it used to. You know what I mean? That was a real hard thing to
I don't even want to think
accept.
about it. I got on a bicycle a couple weeks ago. Like I grew up riding bicycles and jumping ramps and doing
Yeah.
all the whole thing. And I got on, and it had been maybe 10 years since I'd been on a bike. And like 10 years ago, I could still get on and do all the same tricks I used to do. And all
Yeah.
day I got on, and I was like, oh damn. You know, I kept putting my feet down in the whole thing, and I'm like, oh, so you do kind of start to lose it.
Yeah. I did the same thing with skateboarding. I've been trying to get my son to be a little bit more active. So I've been trying to teach him how to skateboard, and he cannot get the concept down. He's 10 years old. The balancing, that shit, he's just not coordinated at all, right? But so I'm like, I wonder if I can still drop in. I did it. I did do
you?
it. Yes,
Damn,
it did.
good for you.
But
man.
it took me like riding up it a lot of times to get
pumping.
used to the
Yep.
like getting up, turn around, and go down, getting used to like getting up it and going around. And once I did, I was able to
Try
drop
getting
in.
over the fear a little bit too.
Yeah.
First drop in.
Yeah, because basically I would get higher and higher and get to the point where I'd get to the coping and then
Yeah.
like, you know, do a little, you know, pivot and turn, a little 50-50 grind or some shit and then come back down. I'm like, oh, if I can do that, then I can drop in.
Right.
You're still 45 degrees away from standing straight up to dropping in.
Yeah.
dude.
But dude, I see like what I do on Facebook nowadays is I watch cat videos, dog videos, and skateboard videos. Dude, there's the skaters nowadays are fucking insane.
He was showing me a
Yeah.
friend of his, 54 years old, still doing
Yeah. Still.
all like
540
just
twist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's even better too when like you'll see a video of like a famous skater from like the 90s. They're like, oh, they're still doing it. And there's like a video of them fucking hitting rails and shit. I'm like, God damn.
That's
It
them.
doesn't feel that long ago. Like
Shit.
not at all.
dude, I remember just playing Tony Hawk all day when it was raining outside and then skating every day. You know, I was fucking like 18 because I played basketball from like 6th grade all the way up until my last year of high school. And I was like, I know I ain't going to college with this shit. So I started skateboarding of all fucking things.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I fucking loved it. I had a car so I could drive anywhere I wanted to go
That's,
skate.
the car
yeah.
changes everything.
Yeah. So
Yep.
that was fun. That was a fun part of my life.
Did you ever have your parents say, you know, it wasn't that long ago, I was your age? It's like, whatever, old man. You're so damn old. Like, and now I'm saying that to my kid, and I'm like, he's saying the same thing back at me, and I'm like, no, really, it wasn't that long ago that I got out of high school.
You know, I was so my daughter just started college, right? So on the way to Sturgis, I went and hung out with her at her new college. She's in the panhandle of Oklahoma. There ain't shit, right? But the weird thing about my daughter, she was born in 2002, and she's literally grown up her whole life with social media.
Yep.
So things, when I talk to her, like the way, because you know she hasn't lived with me in like 10 years, just her perspective on the world is just like not bad. It's just I don't
Different.
get it because you know the age, and I'm 38, so I had her real young.
Young, yeah.
You know what I mean? So I felt like you know, I'm still pretty close, relevant to
Right.
her, but there's differences, man. Like they do different shit. Like they remember when we were kids, like you're on the phone in high school or whatever. Man, I just wish I could see your face right now talking to your chick. If we just had video phone calls, and then that shit came around, and like I never do it because it's weird. You know what I mean?
I don't even like getting on the telephone anymore.
Yeah.
No, it was.
I do it.
I'm not even going
It's
to
weird.
tell.
I love it.
I got some good stories I'll tell off air about my kids, my son specifically. But just the whole, I mean, social media and just the whole technology right there in your hand it's good, but it's so bad at the same time.
It's good if you use it the way I think
Use it
that
right.
our generation
Yeah,
is
for
using
sure.
it. Like, you know, we look at all these tools like, all right, I really don't give a fuck about seeing Craig from fucking high school.
No.
You know, like, oh, cool, you're still alive, man, cool.
Right.
But then when the thing happened for business, then it was like, fuck, like,
Right.
I can reach how many people?
Yeah.
You know?
Remember just having like a BlackBerry somewhere you could check your email when you're on
Yeah.
the road? Like that was a big deal. Like, oh, I can keep up with my email.
I remember when the camera first happened on the phones. And I think it was even flip phones had
They
cameras.
were,
Yeah.
Another one, yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like, why the hell do I need a camera in my phone? Like
Now
that's
I'm
stupid. Now you're
fucking-
like
Yeah.
4,000 pictures and 1,000 videos.
I got like 10,000 photos on my shit.
8,000, yeah.
I'll take pictures of like, you know, when you take the tank off of a Dyna and you have the wires for the,
All day long.
I've done a million of these, but I can never remember which wire goes in. So I always take a picture and then I have to
Yeah.
scroll back down. It's like
Yep.
instead of just saving one or some shit.
And you always lose them too because you've taken another 1,000 pictures since you took that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of, you know, like, man, all that shit, it's just, it's awesome to have all this technology, but, you know, if you don't use it to kind of like better your life, it can
Yeah.
make your life worse.
It's like everything.
You
It's got
know?
to be within reason.
Yeah.
You know?
Like finding different ways to, like traditionally, like a machine shop like this, building these parts, building these bikes, you wouldn't really, the only time it would get exposed like of a magazine or like early 2000s, you had like TV shows coming in, which they never portrayed. I don't think they ever did a good job portraying like brands or people the way that, they had to spin it for like a marketing and drama to appeal to people.
They used those guys too, man. I mean,
Big time.
like the amount of money and output that they had into those bikes, and it's like going out of town. It's not the travel that sets you back financially. It's being out of work and, just all the time involved. If you're going to be out of town for 10 days, you might as well count yourself out for 3 to 4 weeks because of prep time and then the recovery time afterwards. And I don't mean recovery like hangover. I mean recovery like getting back in the swing, cleaning the shop up, emptying the trailer out, getting everybody's bikes back to them. It's, those dudes, when it was 30 days at first and then 10 days, for those biker build-offs, that was, from everybody that I've spoken to that did one, they're just like, dude, I would never do it again.
With Jesse James relaunching the Monster Garage, kind of back to talking about like the inspiration of youth now, I really hope that it maybe inspires more people to get into. So here's what happens with people that want to do what I want to do. I get it every day. People want to start painting, but they're looking at 20 years of my to be where I'm at.
They want to do tomorrow.
And like the reason why I've been able to weather all the different storms is because not because I know how to airbrush or pinstripe or do graphics. It's because I also know how to sand and paint and body work and plastic repair
and assemble the bike.
Assemble.
You have
to. I'm able to do everything and be self-sufficient 100%. And when people hit me up and they want to learn how to do all the custom stuff, I'm like, the custom stuff is something you add to the top of the basics.
For sure. Yeah.
If you just want to be a custom painter and you don't want to know how to do anything else, then you're always going to have to rely on somebody else to do the paint work, which means that you're possibly not going to have the ability to make the money you need to stay in business.
And it might be great if you get to that point.
Yeah.
But man, you got a mountain to climb before you get to that point.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to really. Yeah, man, and you got to pay your dues too. That's a big thing.
I've done a bunch of crackhead shit. Short of sucking some dude's dick, I've done a lot of crackhead shit in this industry to be where I'm at.
Yeah.
Free paint jobs, cheap ass paint jobs, bending over backwards, driving to NorCal to pick up and deliver parts from Texas.
To try and better yourself.
Well, it's
just to get the name out there.
Just to do all that shit. I mean, and it's easier now with social media, but I mean, the thing is, like, I don't know if schools are as helpful as I know they're helpful to get the certificates to kind of set you apart from just another dude, but the amount of time in a shop just apprenticing or just being there sweeping the floor, seeing things take place, you can learn so much. But people think of their time in a different way than I think than our generation did, or like, that I'm an 80s baby. I think you're 70s probably, and you're old as fuck, ain't you?
Yeah, old as fuck.
Hell yeah. But
he's 70s baby
you look
too.
like this when you're
You're
50.
70s baby.
69.
69.
I thought you were 70.
But I really wonder. I don't know. Like that's the weird thing, because a lot of people have no problem paying $50,000 to go to a school and stuff, but for some reason, just getting mom and dad to help you, afford to live while you are going to apprentice in a shop.
So I wonder why. And I've spoken about this with some other folks in the past. You go to apprentice at a tattoo shop, you pay that guy a pretty good amount of money.
And you do some fucking grunt work.
Ignorant shit.
Yeah.
Ignorant. And, why does that not happen in our business? And I think that it would actually probably help our business if there were some shops that would allow that to go on or that would promote that, because then you're going to get a little better foundation than rather than. I'll be honest with you right now, and there's going to be people out there listening that don't like hearing this, but there's a crop of builders out there that don't have any business building motorcycles, and these dudes are invited builders at Born Free.
Yeah.
And they're here and they're there. I love Grant and Mike from Born Free, love the hell out of them. And it's not them at all. It's just some of these dudes, man, their bikes are dangerous as shit. They don't run. Things are breaking. People are, putting people's lives in danger. And it's like, man, maybe if they'd had a little better foundation rather than, I saw it on Instagram, it's got to be easy.
Well, the romantic thing is, like you said on Steve's podcast, you went and bought a basket case, you made a lift in the garage, and you built a badass bike, and now you're here at Born Free as a builder, right?
Yeah.
That's the cool chopper thing to do.
Right.
But in reality, like, I remember when I worked at the shop I was telling you, Other Side Customs, I worked Monday through Friday, right? I worked there because I knew how to sand. I had a basic background in paint. But he worked 7 days a week, the guy that owned the place. And so I would go up there and hang out on Saturday and Sunday and just sit around and watch them and shoot the shit because we all talk shit and stuff like that. So I was like, why the fuck am I here just hanging out at my job? Like, you're not going to do that at Walmart if you work there or anywhere else.
I did the same thing. The bike shop I started off at, I'd say, you going to be in tomorrow, being on a Sunday. And he's like, yeah, I think I'm going to come in for a couple hours and, knock something out. I'm like, you mind if I come in? Nope. Come on in. And I'd come in and help or just soak it up.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And it, just getting back to what I was saying, I think it would help if people would just get a better foundation and learn a little bit more. And there's guys that have only built a couple motorcycles that, like Brian Butera, like that dude.
Yeah.
Bad motherfucker.
But he built that gold bike, right, with the 2 on the side of it?
Yep, and then he had that red one, which he's selling right. He's got that red one, his first bike for sale. That dude's bad.
Yeah.
Super talented. But he's a fabricator first. You know what I mean? And then he got into the motorcycles. So, there is ways to jump. Like, you can paint certain things and then get into painting bikes, and you can build certain things and then get into building bikes. But it's just scary, and it goes right back to how we started this whole conversation. Is it waters down our industry to the point where where we used to get 30 grand for a bike, now people are getting 16. Like, I see guys selling bikes where you tally up the parts and the parts are worth more than what they're asking for a complete bike. Selling a shovel head with a magneto on it and custom paint and all that shit for $8 grand. I'm like, and they're calling themselves a bike shop. It waters it down for the guys like us that are, and just like you're talking earlier, then we adapt, so it's like.
So trendsetters create the trends, and then these guys come along and they water down the thing and it dissolves and
something else.
And then next thing you know, like, we all have the people, if you consider yourself like a lifer in motorcycles, then you're always going to have your ear to the ground, your eye to the ground, or the eye in the fucking road, whatever the fuck. I don't know the analogy. It's something like that.
Sounds good.
We got you.
Perfect.
But you're always looking for inspiration for what you're currently doing and where you want to go with it. And for me, I've just followed my passion for motorcycles, and it's taken me down different areas. It went from sport bikes, and when the big wheel thing became cool, I looked at a Road Glide, which was never a tastefully looking bike until you put a bigger wheel under it, and I'm like, fuck, that looks cool. It inspired me to go down that path, and then by riding them, I found myself in an industry full of people that didn't like to ride bikes. They just like to build them and put them in trailers.
Saturday and Sunday.
So then I was like, well, I love riding these bikes. I want to be around people that like to ride bikes. And so I found that culture with Dynas, FXRs, even choppers. And now, as I'm where I'm at in my life, in my career, industry, whatever the fuck you want to say, I like Road Glides. They are fucking comfortable to ride across country, right? I want to bring these dudes on Dynas and FXRs that want to do the same shit, and I want to make this part of the industry fun. I don't want the performance bagger to be the new big wheel where it's a lot of money and then no riding.
Right.
So, we're trying to make this what we want it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
That's what I was saying about you got to create your own industry.
I think that we've hit on it so many times today too. It's just, we're taking care of our industry and
we're putting something on the table for people to eat,
preserving it, and trying to push it in a direction that's going to be beneficial to all of us. Because if we don't, I don't know who's going to. It's not just gonna happen.
So the sucky thing about it is, once you do put so much time and energy to help kind of create a new genre, not that I created it, but I've helped progress it. And then when you see it start to hit kind of mainstream, then the people that didn't help starts getting the real opportunities. And
that's it.
I get a little butthurt on that shit, but I try not to, because I know it's just kind of it's a bad attitude to have into things, because it's not good, right? But it does kind of fuck with me sometimes whenever you're like, well, you're welcome.
Right.
If you could only paint your 20 or 40, and he paints the 60 and 80.
Well, I think it sucks, but at the same time, and it also waters down your.
Do you feel like in our industry, since because everything's marketing and advertising now, everything. I mean, we're all doing it, right? Do you think that we're so wrapped up in self promotion that we don't look at the just sharing other people doing cool shit anymore? Like you know what I mean?
Right.
I'm trying to find a way to.
Yeah, I think so. And that's why we do try to share what our friends and our influences and those that are influenced by us even, we do try to share that stuff, and I've never been a jealous person. My biggest competitor is me. Like, there's nobody in the world that's going to compete with me more than me. Like, I always want to make myself better. And the people that are around me, I'm thankful for Brad, and I'm thankful for, FXR Division and Ramjet and, Hardcase. And, I love all those dudes. And I want them to keep pushing it and making it, harder for me to make a buck, because then that makes me, the whole story. We already touched on. But at the same time, I'm going to show their stuff off, because you may not like my risers, but I'd rather you bought them from Hardcase or Brad than you bought them from some imported, bullshit. Shit. Yeah, or you get it out of a catalog. I'd much rather see my guys, our kind of our peers. I'd rather see them make money, and it's just, I've never been a jealous person. Yeah. It's like, if you're jealous, you got major things to deal with, and we all know those.
I think you said it best earlier. It's like, it's not jealousy, but it's like the friendly competition. When you see someone do rad shit, it pushes you, and that's the extent of my jealousy. Is at the same time, like, when I see another dude do a badass paint job, I'm inspired.
So that's envy rather than jealousy, I think. Okay. You can be envious, and I think that's healthy, because you're like, oh man, that, because that inspires you. Jealousy doesn't inspire anything, but really probably negativity. Jealousy is like, you're kind of being a cunt. Yeah. But being envious is respectful.
I've done that too. So it's like,
we all have.
If you didn't have somebody to envy, your paint jobs might stay the same forever. You might add something else because
somebody's got to push you.
One little thing.
Sure. So, the good thing is, like, you made a post, I think, on social media the other day, that there's this new little spot on the website called the Softail. So you got some good plans with all the Softail parts, and are we ever going to get some bagger shit or what, bro?
We do. There's a brand new Road Glide sitting in the warehouse that we're going to start doing some stuff on, and so we did an oil cooler guard on the Softail to start with.
And it's actually pretty clean. I see it now.
Yeah. So it covers up everything, and it's got, big heavy-duty stainless steel mesh to keep your oil cooler from getting beat up.
I think the most expensive part is all those ARP bolts all over.
Dude, it's brutal.
Yes, sir.
So here's what we do, man. We're not trying to be the cheapest. We are being the best. That's what our thing is. When people are like, "Oh, damn, I can get it from so-and-so." I'm like, well, if price is your thing, we're not the right people to shop with. We offer fair prices, but at the same time,
it's about the part.
We tally up how much it costs. We know how much we need to make on top of that, and that's what we offer it at. We never price things to be cheaper than the next guy, because that's not how you compete if you're doing quality stuff. So we have a lot of plans for this bike. Actually, you can see the air cleaners off of there, so we're working on that. How much do we want to tell them? Obviously, we're going to do axles front and back for them.
That's one of the things, because the axles, it seemed like when the big wheel bagger thing, you had Yaffe had the axle delete on the front, and then of course, like, going with like Nest lowers, you get a nicer clean look, but not everybody on a bike wants to do inverted front end, and it's very expensive. It's a hard thing to swallow sometimes for most people, but the axles and like lowers, like those hard parts, are like some of the most tackiest parts.
For sure. And let's talk about an inverted front end for a minute, because we all love them. Yeah. I get it. I mean, I know where they come from. The only gain you get is it's less unsprung weight. All the internals can be the same from a traditional or a conventional front end to an inverted front end. Yeah. All the valving and everything on the inside can be the same. It's just you're basically taking the weight of your slider and putting it up high so it's sprung. We love how they look. We obviously love how they perform. But how many of us are honestly realizing the full potential of an inverted front end? Like, we're not GP guys. We're not as much as we want to be, we're not. And so that's why we offered our narrow mid glide, our 49 narrow glide, is because now for all the FXR, Dynasports, or chopper guys that have always run the 39 millimeter, you can use the same wheels and all that stuff, but step up to a bigger front end. It's more stout. It's, the tubes are thicker, the tubes are bigger in diameter, and you can drop in a million different suspension options.
39, you almost got to build it like a race tech or some shit.
You have to, and even then, the tubes are the same thickness. Yeah. They're weak, and you're not.
See, I like the traditional look of a Harley.
So do I, and that's why we did that, because you don't have the, like, when it's on a bike, the general Joe Blow walking past isn't even going to pay attention to that front end. Yeah. But somebody, we've seen it. Like, oh, damn. That looks like a mid-glide or, a 49, but it's narrower. And it's like, we made that. And there's a reason why. So, I don't even remember how we go. Oh, you're talking about the axles and everything. the reason we started making our axles is just because, well, it was twofold. You know, you wanted something that wasn't zinc plated or chrome plated and just kind of, you know, Chinesey looking.
Dude, when I think I hit you up because earlier this year I had an FXR. I was going to build it, and then I fucked up, and the first two things I bought were $1,000, and they're like the last two things you put on the bike. So you always start with the most important things to build the bike, not the last two pieces. And I was like, fuck, I don't want to do this again. So I ended up like just selling the bike and whatnot. But no, I totally, because I wanted to, instead of doing a Brock swing arm or a track or something, I wanted to keep the original swing arm, and I wanted to make it look really nice and using, and I was going to paint it, right? So your products, your axles back there with the fucking the beauty ring or whatever the fuck they are, I don't know what it's called, but it would have looked really nice on the candy.
We just
red
tried
frame.
to make a complete kit, but also, you know, if you really ride your bike like you do, and if you're going to ride an FXR, you got to know how to work on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
You know, so if you're out on the road and you got to adjust your chain tension, or you got to, you know, change a tire or something, we put the hole in it for a drift or a screwdriver to go into, and then it's got a smaller nut on the other side.
It's more
so you don't have to,
accessible.
and you don't have to carry a bunch of huge tools. These are tools you've already got a screwdriver in your toolkit, and you've already got a 9/16. You know,
So what I started doing with that, because I actually had on my FXR, I lost a bolt on the axle on the rear wheel in Monument Valley. I was about 100 miles away from Ace Hardware.
anything, yeah.
I duct taped it
Did you?
and zip tied it. Like I duct taped the side that still had a bolt on it, and that way it wouldn't come out further.
Right.
You know, and I ended up riding with no fucking bolt for about 120 miles to the Ace Hardware, the next town. Sketchy as fuck. I got pictures of it and everything, but
You made it.
what I started doing was, you know, because like you said, you got a tool bag and you're trying to keep your tools small.
Right.
I went to Home Depot and bought one of those pipe wrenches, like a smaller one.
Yeah.
It goes up to damn near any bolt you need,
Right.
and you can.
So in a pinch.
it'll char up
sure.
your fucking bolt,
For
but
sure.
you know,
By
in a
then,
pinch.
When you're on the
matter.
road, it'll work.
Yeah, it gets you to the spot, and it
Well,
doesn't
we've-
take up a lot of space.
We've got another cool FXR product coming out next week. So a lot of guys like to run the 02 and later, was it 02 to 10 swing arm, bagger swing arm?
Yeah,
So we've got a conversion kit so you can run, you know, because those are 1-inch axles.
yeah,
We've got a conversion kit where we sell you a 3/4-inch axle
nice.
with all of the adapters, so you can run the late model brake. Everything's spaced. You just put in our axle.
That's cool.
Yeah, so you can run your stock FXR wheels, or you could even run the 2000 to 2003 sealed wheels.
Yeah,
And then we'll have another kit. We're working with Chris from FXR division on it, where you can, you know, a lot of guys use those sealed conversion bearings where you go instead of the Timkins. So we'll have all that, but you know, people really like that later. I like it too. That's what I'm putting on my bike instead of an aftermarket swing arm, just doing the bagger one.
I like that. I like running that bagger. I think the brakes that come on like my gear bagger, I've seen people like make it to where they can run those on those things,
Yep.
and those are fucking big ass calipers, and they look good. And
I think Nick from Industry Customs, he makes. Well, I know he does. He makes those conversion tabs.
Yeah.
She cut. You know,
That's
you can
right,
just
yeah.
you just weld it right on
Yeah.
there, and then you've got it. Yeah, it's a really nice
I
product.
dig that look, man. Just finding ways to kind of. I mean, there's so many used parts and some of these newer bikes products. Like even when they like Ramjet makes little plates so you can run the bigger Brimbos on the old 35 or 39 or whatever the old one. Yeah, 39 millimeter forks.
35s. I don't know if they make them for 35s.
yeah,
but it'd probably be the 39. Yeah.
Yeah, because the brakes on the FXR brakes are horrible, dude.
Oh, I know.
They don't fucking stop shit.
No.
You know, but yeah, those one single piston calipers and shit, you're just
I
like,
know.
the engine braking works a little bit better.
Right. The rear brake always worked okay, but the fronts leave a lot to be desired, especially if you just have one of them.
Yeah, there's it's cool seeing that stuff, but like same thing with the baggers. It's like most of the products for the bagger market is still big wheel oriented.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of tribally and points, and
Yeah.
it doesn't really fit the narrative.
Choppers from 15 years ago.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yep.
It's just repurposed.
Same clientele probably too.
Yeah.
Same bunch of dudes.
So
right.
wanting, you know, I think it's really nice seeing more people starting to make products so that we can customize these bikes without having to do a swing arm,
Right.
you know, without having to do an inverted front end, but still have a clean look that has a taste of performance, even though it's not
sure.
really adding. It might just be a looks thing, you know.
That's right.
But I just want my shit to look different, but
For
not
sure.
be.
I'd lose a little bit of weight, look a little bit better, perform
Yeah.
a little bit better. I mean, it's not like you're gonna. I mean, after all, it's still an 800, 900 pound
Yeah.
bike. You know, you're not gonna win a race against a
Yeah.
R1 or a
Exactly. But
So
that's what's fun about the bikes, man. It's like it's a multi-purpose bike.
yeah,
You can
well, when I say I don't like, I used to say I don't like baggers because I was a chopper guy. But it's
Yeah.
like, the older you get, the more you. And
you're
it's
kind
not
of on a bagger now with the BMW.
with the BMW. Even though I never put the bags on it, I am.
Okay.
But I've come around to them. I love the utilitarian aspect, and
Yeah.
the older you get, the more you like having the windbreak, and you like having the radio and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. I get that. And I'll give a lot of credit to the guys that have made bikes like you and Aaron's bike. Like, don't give credit to you guys. Like, that made me like them a lot more. Like, seeing those two bikes roll up today, I was like, oh, fuck yeah, those are pretty badass.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I think the big wheel baggers just left a bad taste in my mouth because it wasn't. Again, I appreciate the craftsmanship, but I never respected the real
The point.
purpose.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, you're just kind of. You're just kind of just making it look cool, but you're
Yeah.
not. It doesn't do anything for me, But now those bikes,
Yeah.
it's cool. It's just like we said. It's like a Dyna or an FXR with a little bit more.
Think about it like this: like where we live, kind of you in the same boat here in the Midwest, and I'm in Dallas. So for us to go to the fun places to ride,
Yeah.
we have a long way to go.
1,000 miles.
If I lived in LA, I probably would ride a fairingless bike.
Yep.
I'd probably be chill because it's not I'm fucking 20 miles from the mountains, 20 miles from the beach,
Right.
whatever. I gotta fucking travel.
Yeah.
I gotta hit time zones to get to cool
Yeah.
shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So
I mean, it's literally 1,000 miles to get
Every direction.
We're in the middle of everywhere, but we're not close to anything.
so it's good for like it's good for it's good for like if we want to go east or west or north or south, but when you're kind of in the middle and all the best riding in America is basically 1,000-mile radius away from you.
Yeah.
You just kind of I've adapted just like you would say like a Midwest style bike, like a D-Rake chopper or something like that. Like the terrain that you live on kind of dictates the type of bikes you ride.
Sure.
Skinny, narrow, California, cities, things like that. And I think why some of the bigger names in the performance bagger scene are all kind of guys here in the Midwest. You know what I mean? Because we have to go a long way to do shit.
That's a great. I never thought about that either, man. You're opening my eyes to a lot of stuff. I've never considered that. That's exactly why, though. I don't know. We're just. So I got started with the panheads and the knuckleheads and even shovelheads, and still love them.
So
I
cool,
catch
yeah.
a little bit of flack because it's like, oh, you used to do this and you used to that. I'm like, yeah, well, okay.
Let me ask you this. I don't want to cut you off, but while I'm
Sure.
thinking about it, so when I don't know how much you paid attention to like the Born Free chopper movement kind of vibe, right?
Oh, of course.
When you listen to these guys, like the kind of chopper builders they idolize is like your Denver's Choppers or your Tom Fugels and those kind of things, right? But there was also this amazing guy called Arlen Ness that seems to get not the same kind of credit or love from that community, but I feel like it's because he did have to move with the times and stay in business.
I think you answered your own question. I
Yeah.
think that's why it was.
And so, like whenever, you look at like a Covington or whatever who was buying Denver chopper shit back in the days when he was in Cali and the bikes that he built, it's like these guys are responsible for continuing to keep this industry alive for the last 20 years so that you fucking nerds can have like original panheads and original fucking magneto motors where the fuck. Like, you should all be looking at these guys helped keep it going. Show them some fucking love and respect. You know what I'm saying? Because
Well, and I think it's kind of, and I'm not going to bag on those guys much. I mean, there's some guys in that whole genre of our industry that are just kind of dipshits. But then, like Christian Newman,
yeah,
dude's fucking insane. Hawk Lash from Montana, like, man, those dudes just, all of a sudden they appeared and you're like, holy
Wow.
shit,
Yeah.
this guy, and they're all, but here's the deal. They're pushing the envelope. They're not, you can see the inspiration comes from Tom Fugel and from Denver's Choppers
Yeah.
and from, all of those guys, Dick Allen, but they're still pushing it. You see the inspiration, but it's not a knockoff. Like so much of that stuff's a regurgitation, and it's not even like Born Free has produced some killer damn
Yes.
bikes, man. Let's
It
not
really
like these
has.
are like hundreds of bikes that are going to be remembered forever.
true.
And there's been a little bit, but it's not necessarily even the bikes in the show. It's all the kind of hangers on and the guys that want to be a part of it, and they so much of that stuff's just a regurgitation of everything that was done in 1968. But those guys were doing it for the first time. So Arlen did it for the first time in 68. Then he didn't do it again.
Yeah.
Then he did the next one, and then the bike got longer, and then there was two iron heads in the bike instead of just one engine, and like he was constantly evolving and constantly pushing the envelope. And I think that's where so many guys today, like I'm building a D-rake chopper now, but it's got a twin cam in it, and it's got
Is that the
big
FXR
brakes.
one you're doing? Or
No, that's his
It's your
FXR. I'm doing a hardtail.
Okay.
But it's going to have one of our narrow glides on it with alloy art lowers, and it's going to be performance guts in it, and big Brembo brakes. So it's like I'm going to progress, even though it's going to look like a bike you would have seen around St. Louis 35 years ago. It's not a bike you would have seen because it'll 120 horsepower.
I still question that too. It's like if everybody's just going to vintage everything, like what are you creating that 20 years people are going to dig?
That's
you know what
I mean. There's nothing memorable.
Yeah,
It's
I
just
mean,
a
I get it that like
regurgitation of the same
back
thing.
then the cars were made better. The bikes probably had more soul in them and stuff. But I think that we all still need to pay attention to how we live now, and how do we become inspirational.
Yeah, inspirational.
And fucking making up words. How do we?
You're a trendsetter, man.
Yeah.
It's Applebee.
Trademark Ricky Bobby.
Straight from Applebee's.
But you want to. I don't want. I want to leave a mark. And this is probably arrogant or fucking narcissistic to think, but I do want to leave a mark on the industry to where people in 20, 30, 40 years are going, fuck, man, those dudes were fucking killing it back in the day.
I don't think that's arrogant or narcissistic.
Yeah.
I think that's the difference. I think that's the difference in thinking that's going to set you aside. And, if somebody says, well, why do you need to be set aside? Well, that's your form of thinking. And my form of thinking is I want to do something different and better. And it's not about leaving my mark on this business, but it's about doing so well that was that was a byproduct.
Yeah.
Bare Knuckle did so well that they're remembered 50 years from now after I'm in the grave because they pushed it and they created some shit that's still being made.
Yeah.
That's, you know what I'm saying? So it's not like I never wake up in the morning and go, I want to be in the Sturgis Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
But I do wake up in the morning and go, I'm going to do so fucking good today that my work is going to
Eventually
go.
put me there.
And then if somebody's okay, yeah, hell yeah, Sturgis Hall of Fame, badass. But it's never my goal. My goal is just doing the best at what I do.
Exactly.
And the same for you, obviously. I mean, you get what I'm saying. It's just, there's, if you were to say, so many of those dudes in 2007 that were building choppers and so many of the big wheel bagger guys, they did have those kind of goals. Their goal wasn't building the best motorcycle. Their goal was fame. And
sometimes when you're chasing fame, when you're chasing fame, it never comes when you're chasing it, right? It comes after 20 years of grinding in a shop and learning how to do your trade, and eventually you get to a point where like, oh shit, I'm actually kind of a professional at this now.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you get your 10,000 hours in of work time on something to become quote unquote a professional, and then all of a sudden
we know guys, and like some of our mentor, like Arlen Fatlin from Two Wheelers in Denver, like that dude's the farthest thing from a rock star. But in reality, when you look at what he's done over the years, he's a fucking rock star.
Yeah.
Like he's so good, but he's the most quiet, just chill dude. And he, like, I guarantee he never set out to be some big famous dude.
So that's that brings up another point of mine, is that you can't be quiet anymore in this world. To be in business, you have to be loud now. You have to be everywhere.
That's a hard lesson to learn, and it's a hard one for me to swallow. Like my buddy John at Dirty Bird, John Shope, he's like, I hate being the guy that I am in front of the camera. Maybe he doesn't want me to say that, but he's like, because he's a respectful person, and he's been down some roads that we haven't.
Yeah.
And he's a family guy. He's got the biggest heart that I've ever. One of the biggest hearts I've ever. And it's not popular sometimes to say that you're good friends with John because John rubs people the wrong way. But he's done that because it's built his brand. He does the wheelies, he does the burnouts, he does the ignorant shit with fire and all this stuff, squirting out of the pipes. But it's done what he needed it to do, and his kids are set.
Exactly.
He's built a hell of a brand. The one day he's gonna be like, okay, it's time for me to retire, and if his kids aren't taking over, he's gonna sell it and be set. He's already set, and he's done. I've known John since day one. He started buying frames from me, and he shifted and he was right at the forefront of the big wheel bagger. Then he's at the forefront of this Cholo thing, whatever.
One of my favorite bikes, the big wheel bagger, my favorite of all time. The one that made me want to do it was his first white one that he built with the cheetah.
Blue and the Oh yeah.
It was a white one. It was a Road Glide. It was like called I don't remember, but it had like cheetah in the bags or some shit.
Yep.
I just fucking love that bike.
Yeah, he's so fucking creative.
Yeah.
You know, and it's always something different, and he's just coming up with ideas and ideas and ideas. And he's got performance bagger parts coming out now, you know, like all the speedometer delete stuff and all that.
Trust me, like when I went to Phoenix last year and I went and did podcasts with everybody, that's kind of what I was doing was somebody's phone going off. Getting a little but no, you know, when I was talking to Yaffy, I was like, you know, outside of the podcast, we were talking about performance baggers, and you know, I was trying to get them to start looking at this scene and start making products for this scene, and not like only having available the monkey bars, right? Like make some bars that we can use, you know what I mean? And then John Show works with West Coast T-bars. Now we got the nacelles.
Yeah,
those things are going to make it a lot more easier to build these type of bikes.
Yep.
And I guarantee you, the more people that ride these baggers with T-bars on them or moto style bars, they would never want to go back to ape hangers.
Right.
It's insanely
so much
different
more
how comfortable.
Stable.
Yeah, it's like having an adventure bike, especially mine. I'm mid controls, all that shit. So I feel like I'm on an adventure bike, but kind of fucking broed out. You know what I mean? Right. It feels good. You know what I mean? I feel cool and I'm comfortable. I can smash like at 765 miles yesterday. You know what I mean? And then we got fucked up at Applebee's.
Still had enough energy to hammer down at Applebee's.
Apparently not, because I've been fucking suffering all morning. It's finally gone.
You're doing all right now.
Yeah.
No, our buddy Matt, he's married to our the girl that works here.
Accountant.
And he works for us too. He's worked for us for years, but he's kind of come and go right now. But anyhow, he's always had the ape hanger, just the typical Harley bro type bike, right? Big old ape
We call them Hell Yeah Brothers.
Yeah, that's what he is. He's totally Sturgis brother. So he rode a friend's Road Glide maybe 2 weeks ago.
Uh-huh.
And he comes home and, like, you know, all my FXRs had fairings. You know, I always had quarter fairings. I never had a full fairing bike. But he'd always give me shit. Fairings are stupid. They look gay. They look this. They look that. I'm like, yeah, well, ride one. And he was like, I'll never say another word. And guess what? A week later, he bought a brand new Road Glide. I mean, it was literally, he rode one, and within a week, he owned one.
Yeah, that's why it's hard for me, because my second Harley I ever owned, my first Harley was my mom's Nightster, 2007. That was my going from a Gixxer 1000 to a Nightster. And I was like, that's cool, but man, fucking the wind and riding. And then my next bike was a Road Glide. I bought a brand new fucking 2012 Road Glide, and I had 10,000 miles on it in 2 months. Just ripping around town like, you know, fucking.
That's an adventure bike. Just a different kind of adventure.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's concrete adventure.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
But you know, like the fairing. So like I fell in love with choppers and I fell in love with the FXRs, but I'm spoiled from the fairing. So I have a hard time getting and doing the kind of riding that I do on a bike that doesn't have it.
It's a battle. Like, we went to Colorado a couple years ago and we did 1,500 miles in about 24 hours on the way home. And like, you get home and you're on an FXR. And I've ridden choppers, like big, long, stupid looking choppers to the East Coast and back. And you know, if you do 700-800 miles in a day, I mean, you're smoked. You're smoked. And like,
see, I want to do that though. So I've had chopper fever for fucking a couple years now, but I don't know.
There's nothing like it. I mean, like, the FXRs are cool, all motorcycles, but dude, there's nothing like being on a chopper. It's just, you know, like.
So I want to ride one across country before. I don't have, I say the body, I definitely don't have the body for it now, but being able to, because I want to do it on a hardtail, right? And I already know it's going to suck. Everybody's already, I want to do it to say that I did it. You know, every time you can ride every type of bike, the same exact roads across the country, and each bike is going to be a different experience. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
So,
it's how you set it up. You know, if you've got a good front suspension and you got a good riding posture, a good riding position, that's going to help you more than
that makes sense. Yeah.
Anything, you know. Paul Cox makes a cool little air ride seat too. I'm putting that on the one I'm building this winter. It rides pretty nice.
A lot of people, friends and people I've talked to over the years, at least the last year and a half or so, we've all kind of feel like that fat tire chopper kind of craze is on a comeback. Do you feel like that a little bit?
I mean, I hear that. You know, Billy Lane's building a handful of them again, and
I like a good 200 tire.
Yeah, under 200 cc. So
Yeah.
when we used to build a lot of bikes, we used to build 10 or 12 bikes a year in the chopper days, and we wouldn't build anything over 200.
I'll fuck with a 200 chopper all day long. I don't give a shit what.
Well, see, so that's why we did it, is because I don't want to build a motorcycle for you, and then you don't want to ride it.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm like, at a 200 and a decent enough front tire, you're still going to be able to corner and have fun with it. And, you know, it gets much bigger than that. And there's going to be guys listening to this and, you know, that say, oh, I ride my 240 better than you ride your FXR, which I'll call them out on that any day. But at the same time, you know, there's guys that will ride them, but it's just, you know, you get one tire fights the other is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know, the front tire is going to fight the rear because the front tire is ready to lean and the rear is like, nope, I'm going to take my time getting over, you know, and it just
doesn't work out too well.
Right. I guess they're making a comeback. I mean, everything they say goes in cycles.
Well,
I mean,
I've always liked the tanks and the fenders. I like the craftsmanship behind it, the way the overall look. The tire thing, I mean, still on a side profile, I dig the way it all looks, but
I always liked Joe Martin's bikes. His tanks and all that, the way that all flowed together, man.
Yeah.
He was a big influence on me early on.
He was big. I mean, I literally
He's in your
grew
neighborhood,
up in the town that his first shop was in.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And he was, you know, when I was coming up into bikes, he was already, you know, on top of the world, kind of famous and shit. And then when the chopper thing kind of crashed, he didn't really he did a lot of bagger stuff. Like, he'd paint them, build a couple ones. Like, he was kind of doing it early on.
Mm-hmm.
But he always built cars, so that's when he moved down to Austin and started doing more cars and doing a little bit of everything. But I was always in love with his paint jobs, man.
I liked his bikes because
Yeah.
his bikes might have a little bit more tire, but it flowed well. It just had
it
a
was
good look.
fucking dope, man. It was
Yeah.
cool, and it was long and low. And back in the day, like, he's in Dallas and he's banging Playboy chicks and shit like that. Like, that dude was fucking rock star, you know. But you know, like,
What a weird time that was,
Yeah,
man.
dude, it's
such
weird.
a weird time that, like, and you look at it now and it's like,
girls don't even pull their tits out anymore. It's
no,
bullshit.
and it's so. I mean, it's like, you know, you really got to be a businessman now,
Yeah.
not a rock star, to keep your business going. You got to, like, have your shit together, and you got to
Yeah.
be on top of marketing, and you got to be on top of accounting, and you got to be on top of, you know, vendor stuff. You look at it like that, and it's like, really, Playboy, like,
Well, I feel like those guys in those chopper days, like, you know, I've always talked about this. Like, if you look at Billy Lane in his fucking heyday going to Sturgis, could you imagine what it would be like to just be that dude's dick for a night? Just
can't imagine being anybody's dick for a night, but
just fucking banging. Like, this dude was the dude of
and
dudes.
just people lining up to buy T-shirts,
Yeah.
and then tack a couple more bucks on, and I'll sign it. And yeah, it's just. You know, you got to get out there and, like, you damn near got to get down on your knees to get anybody to buy a part at Sturgis now.
Yeah, think about it. Like, back in the day, in that chopper craze heyday, you go to Sturgis, Laughlin, fucking Rock Rally, all these different places, and you were one of those.
About Route Rally.
You were one of these dudes on top of the world and building bikes, dude. You just had to show up and you could sell anything. You can drink out of a cup and sell that cup, and it's probably worth some money on eBay or some shit.
Yep.
Now, the T-shirt companies are more famous than the bike builders.
Yeah.
You know, which is, I'm not hating those dudes, but those dudes know how to brand and market.
They know how to brand and market, plus they're selling something that everybody wants. Not everybody owns or wants custom motorcycles or motorcycle parts. Like, I mean, good for them. They were smarter than me. They got into a better segment of the market than I did.
So I also think, like, wonder if, you know, those dudes were portrayed on the TV shows and the magazines and the Easy Rider shows. They also really did portray kind of a lifestyle, right?
Oh, for sure.
And that's what I think was the most appealing part about these dudes, is the fact that, oh shit, like, I could be a rock star like him by building bikes. More people got into building bikes and customizing, as opposed to now you see that, oh shit, I can be Danny Dixon now if I start making shirts. It's like people are chasing whatever the lifestyle fame can be.
Yeah, I think the Discovery Channel stuff spawned that whole the rock star part of the trend, and then, you know, Born Free started the whole, like, more grassroots, you know, hand built chopper, you know, not rough around the edges, but the more
vintage stuff.
Yeah, vintage is what I'm trying to say. I shouldn't have said rough around the edges, but
they are rough around the edges.
Yeah, a lot of them are. Yeah. they're less finished than the bikes that were being done in the...
On the paint side of that, I've talked about it a million times on here, but so when those bikes became popular, of course, no one's fucking painting them, especially not nice. You have to know how to do fucked up paint jobs, paint jobs that are fucked up, and you have to do flames the way they did them in the 40s and 50s. And I'm like, I grew up when mini trucks was kind of at the height, and flame jobs. Like, I grew up in the town of Joe Martin. He used to flame everything out. He had a flamed out boat, Tahoe, trucks, everything.
Hell yeah. I love that shit.
Yeah, everything was flamed out. So, and his flames were always badass. So I spent so much time like stealing tape from work, going home, laying it out on the fridge because it was the only thing the tape would stick to. Getting flames to look good, and then flames come back in a weird way, and it's like everything you're not supposed to do when you lay flames out. And I just
look like some kind of weird ass
like
retarded lobster
seaweed, lobster claws, fucking spaghetti flames, all this shit.
Flames are right or wrong.
Yeah. And so, you know, it was like, fuck, man, I spent so much of my life doing flames. We've been actually pushing it again with some of the helmets we've been doing recently.
No, I've seen it.
And so, like, it's kind of on a resurgence right now. A lot of people are wanting flames. But
I love Parawitz's flames. I love Joe's flames. I love Brad's flames. I love the ones you've been doing on the helmets. That's what I
dig them, man. They're
for sure, man.
They've never gone anywhere.
They've
been a little quiet, but they didn't go anywhere. You're right.
Yeah, there's certain things that paint wise that are like, it's just like printing money when you do them. Like Real Fire, yeah, I'll take one. Like Real Fire was like fucking just you know, sign me up, dude. I'll do that shit all goddamn day. Thank you.
I'm gonna get a drink.
A beer,
carbonated one.
Yeah. While we're taking a break.
Yeah, man, those guys.
It is kind of exciting though when you've been in it for a long enough time, where you see those trends that or those things that you kind of miss start to come back. I'm like, oh fuck, flames are coming back. You know, not just for my bikes, because I'll put whatever I want on a bike, but regardless of what's cool at the moment. But just to see all your buddies coming back.
Modernizing them. It's the same style. It's been timeless.
Well, I think that
forever.
So a flame job is kind of like your basic, the most basic of a custom paint job you can do. Right.
Probably like scallops and then flames.
Yeah, scallops. Somewhere probably flames are definitely harder than scallops. So then, if you think about it, people just like equate this to building bikes, right? Some of the most basic fat tire choppers that were starting to get made in the mid to late 90s were kind of more basic, and then it just like became a one-upper, and it kept going, and it got to a point where it's so crazy. Yeah, it got so crazy that it blew, it bubbled, it bursted, and then all of a sudden, what was popular right after that? Fucking bobbers, like this stripped down version of what
Chopper Town came out. You remember that movie?
Yeah.
Chopper Town came out, and I think it was already underlying, you know, Jockey Journal was out there or whatever it was called, and then Chopper Town came out, and that really catapulted it, I think. Yeah. And Born Free wasn't too far behind it.
Yep.
Which it was welcome, because the Born Free came along, I was like, fuck yeah, you know, because we'd always been into antique, you know, vintage bikes and the old stuff, and, you know, paying homage to your roots or whatever, but the fat tired stuff was never us. So it was a welcome thing, but at the same time, it is kind of exciting to see stuff coming back around again right now. Just hopefully it doesn't get that obscene ever again.
Yeah, when you were talking to Steve on his podcast, you know, you were talking about how, like, you know, like Iron Horse and Big Dog and all these cheap. You can get these fucking bikes cheap.
So, there's guys around here buying them up left and right. There's a friend
pull
of mine
those drivetrains out and fucking drop those into another chopper. The thing is, to me, I don't give two fucks if it's an original Harley motor or a goddamn shovel S&S motor. I'd probably rather have the shovel S&S.
Yeah, you're better off with it.
That way I know I can get parts for it and things like that. But, you know, a lot of those fucking vintage nerds are like, you know, got to be original, man. Fucking, you know, whatever.
I'd rather have. I mean,
gay as AIDS.
Right. So I don't know. I could do a whole podcast on just that. Kind of threw me for a loop there for a second. Do you ever met Randy from Cycle Showcase?
No, I haven't.
Randy's a great dude. He's one of the most. He's just a great dude. I'm not even going to go on about it. He's an awesome person. But he bought up. I don't remember what brand, but he bought up one of those little fat tire bikes, and he's taking it and kind of repurposing things and changing them around. And I mean, it's the big, goofy looking, you know, pointy, swoopy handlebars and the whole deal, and the big fat tire, and he's turning it into something.
I feel like those. I mean, like if you were to buy an Iron Horse, those things are pretty basic. You can customize them. You can you can cut the neck and derake it or whatever the case may be, and and kind of build a new bike off of it.
If you can find one that doesn't have right side drive,
Yeah.
that's the problem, because if you want to like narrow
They were
it,
trying to do that. They were saying that the right side drive was like they had a term for it that was like supposed to be better. So
no, it is, because you got the rotational
Yeah.
rotation of your primary on one side and then your secondary drive on the other side. It makes sense because naturally your bike would want to pull to the left because of
That's right.
the motion of your the two drives. But also when you've got a tire that damn big, you're putting your primary out so far so the transmission sprocket can clear the tire. Then it's even more leaning this way. And you're
trust me,
set for
I used to
NASCAR.
customize sport bikes. So you
know about those swing arms.
You know
and
about
everything.
those damn jack shafts they would fucking make so you could put a 400 rear tire on there.
400. Never
I
drive it.
had
Holy
done.
shit.
I think
What is
we.
that, a 33 1250?
Yeah,
Fuck if I know.
at least.
So I remember like right before I got into Harleys, it got to that point. I was building or customizing is the way I like to say it, like Gixxers and Booses, and we were putting 360s on these bitches, and completely destroyed every notion of performance that these bikes
Right.
came with. But that's what I've always, when it comes to people saying building, customize, I've always said I customize. I want to buy like a chopper somebody else built, and I just want to customize it to my liking.
Right.
You know what I mean? Repaint it, maybe change this, maybe change that.
Yeah.
Same thing I do on Harleys, whatever. I'm not building that Road Glide. I'm customizing. I'm a customizer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so let's open that discussion. How do you? That would be a big debate with other people in the business. Like, what defines a builder? What,
Builder
this is like
a loose term, though.
it is, and so like, do you have to build everything and paint it? Do you have to? You know what I mean? You got to lace your
Yeah.
own wheels. Like, where does it? Have you built the bike if you haven't altered the frame? Have you built the bike if you didn't build the gas tank and mount the fender?
It sounds
you know what
like
I mean?
our version of the Me Too movement.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't make sense to even care. I mean, at the
So
end
many
of the day,
people get so wrapped up in it, though.
But if that's your only claim to fame, then you're never going to make it. No. If you're only here because you classify yourself as a builder, and that's kind of and you're kind of like, oh, you're not a builder, you didn't do this and I did this. That's where that argument in lies.
Right.
Like, if I come in here and I'm sitting here, I built that Road Glide out there, I mean, by certain terms, yes, I did. I took the tank off and painted it, and I reinstalled the tank. I kind of built it back together in a sense, but compared to you making a frame, nowhere near the same thing. That's why it's such a loose term that doesn't have. It's based on, I guess, your perception of whatever it is. That's why I say customize, because I didn't make anything on that bike. I didn't make one part. I bought your shit or your shit or your shit. I might have changed the finish, and then
bolted it together,
bolted it on,
wired it up, and went.
But see, the bolt-on term is turned into kind of like a stab. Yeah. Oh, it's a bolt-on bike. Oh, it's a catalog bike. Oh, it's this. But
still have to have
cake
style.
decorator.
Yeah, it's like, man, I just customize it. Mm-hmm. All those badass hot rods of our generation, they just customize them, but they get called car builders.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, we get a lot of guys that are like, if you go to a show or whatever, like, oh, that's a cake decorator bike, or that guy's a cake decorator, or that's a cookie cutter. It's like, yeah, I get that, but I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't do as much as I might have done, and I don't get caught up in shows. Like,
At
we
the
don't
end of
really
the
give a
day,
shit about
all that matters is how badass the finished product is.
And if it runs and rides.
So this is the same concept I get.
If the customer's happy.
Hey, did you freehand that?
Right.
Yeah.
How the hell are you going to freehand that? I mean,
Yeah.
come on.
Just in general, no. I created it with my hands.
Right.
A machine didn't click, and then all of a sudden it's like
Yeah.
a vinyl plotter
It's
in my hand. You know what I mean? No, I fucking did it with my hand, faggot. Damn it, I said it again. See, I'm trying to stop
you
saying
talking
that, so I'm
about?
being
Right.
more PC for this shit. But
I'm very offended right now. Can you tell? It's all over my face.
yeah. Those kind of things they get annoying because that's kind of like the comfortable thing for someone that doesn't know shit about this thing to ask. Oh, did you freehand this?
Right.
I just say yeah, because then I have tape to do this, and then I transfer the image, and then I kind of freehand it technically, and blah blah blah. It's like I don't
If they had to ask, they don't know.
Well,
Well, if you got the
day,
airbrush out, you're definitely freehand. I mean,
True.
Which whatever. Yeah, I know.
Then the other thing the chopper world became is water slide transfers became the biggest thing in the world with the vintage choppers, which my buddy Scott from Chemical Candy does them all the time. Mm-hmm. His tanks are badass, his paint jobs are badass, but it sucks to learn how to airbrush, and then the coolest thing to do is to basically make a Playboy, a 78 Playboy feature and water slide it on your tank, and then spray black around the edges so you can't tell it's technically a sticker. So
Yeah, that does kind of suck.
and I mean, obviously, I can't airbrush as good as that actual photograph picture is.
Right. I don't know, man. I've seen some, especially on some of your helmets.
Well, the thing
You're
is,
right there.
one of my buddies, he's actually a fucking, he's so badass airbrush artist. Where I'm at now is mainly because he showed me a lot of things that helped me get there. But there's a guy out there. If you ever want to be blown away by an airbrush artist, there's a guy named Drew Blair. Fucking insane, right? Do you have your phone on you? Yeah. Just type in Drew Blair airbrush. This dude's shit is unreal, right? But after you get past the fact that this is airbrushed, if you put that on a tank, it's looks like a photograph. Therefore, the art isn't there.
Right.
If that makes sense.
I understand. I totally get what you're saying.
So-
like that Lemmy painting I put up the other day.
Yeah.
So it
if
looked
you
like a photograph.
Yeah, if you airbrush it and you have an airbrush vibe or look, then it's like you want it to look real, but you
Yeah.
also still want it to look like it was.
You want to know
created.
that it was hand.
Let me see real quick.
Yeah, I'm not finding it.
Are you just pulling up like nudes or something?
There's some hot chicks there though.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh.
Airbrushed.
Oh, get out of here.
Airbrushed.
Wow. I those are pictures.
Hold up. This shit's insane. You listeners out there, go check it out too. A lot of the painters and listeners know exactly who the fuck I'm talking about. But it's just insane.
Oh yeah. So it's more of a
Dude, that's
portrait than it
crazy.
is
You know?
a painting.
So if you put that on your tank, I mean, he's been on like overhauling and shit like that. So he's done. He's kind of a weird dude. He's kind of creepy vibe, but he's a badass fucking painter though. He got his start doing like military, like airplanes like coming in with it water be splatting it all as photorealism. And that's kind of the thing. It's like, think about it. You know, I've talked about this on the podcast too, but back before cameras, people had paintings done as
For
kind
sure.
of like this. Well, when cameras came along, you have all these traditional painters that now don't have a place to do their art. So that's when you got the Picassos and the Van Goghs and those kind of more abstract type of shit.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like photos kind of killed that. You know what I mean? And so when you airbrush something like on a bike or whatever, you kind of want it to look like it's that
I
kind of
get it.
vibe.
Yeah,
you know?
it's still got to
So-
look like art.
not so square photogenic, but like yours, more of a look to it. than
There's a
you know,
lot
the
more
airbrush.
depth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's not square; it's straight, crooked,
Yeah.
oblong,
Yep.
Yep.
caricature.
Character. Yeah. So there's, I don't know. It's like, it's anything, man. You could associate with your parts. Like, okay, I'm going to make a set of risers, but you know, all you're trying to do is the function of, they all are the same thing. It's two bolts,
bars to
holding
the front
bars,
end.
blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But you're having to take this and redesigning a million different ways and to try to find a new shape in the same shape that it's currently at. So that's, you know what I mean?
And still make it desirable enough. That
You know how hard it
somebody
is
wants to
whenever
give
you do
their
one
money?
cool paint job, one color scheme, and then everybody wants that same color scheme. So now I'm fucking doing
Can only
20
imagine.
different
Yeah.
ways of the same thing, and it's like, you know, people think online that, or when they see like, oh damn, that's another orange and gray bike you just did. I'm doing one now.
The customer
He's got
says-
one. I've done one for Covington. I've done helmets. Color schemes, people like them. Like, if you're spending 10 grand on your bike, you want what you want, right?
You're not picking the color schemes; the customer
Yeah.
is.
So I'm like, you know, you get kind of boxed in sometimes, and
Yeah.
you know, but that's a good problem to have people want your thing that you do and not like, hey, here's Schultz. You know, this is what Schultz does, and I think that you should do his paint job, but your style. Like, well, that's not my style then, nerd.
Right.
You know?
Right. We've had it in the past with
Yeah.
bikes. I want you to. I can't build that bike again.
Yeah.
You know, like not only does that
It takes
that
away
would
the
drive me
custom.
crazy,
Yeah.
but it kind of fucks over the customer that paid good money to have that bike built.
Yeah.
You know, so
Maybe he'll sell it, but then you're kind of fucked because you
right,
need this
then
guy
I
to
just
build a
lost-
bike.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I don't know, man. It's kind of just you got to adapt, and sometimes you got to help the customer realize what they really want. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like you got to make them go, "Oh yeah, well, I don't want to have the exact same paint job on my Road Glide as
Yeah.
Joe on his Road Glide, because then." You know, why would you pay that much money for something that's the same as somebody else? That's half of it.
Exactly.
You know, like the craftsmanship and the talent and the art that's involved with it is part of it, but then the other part is like, you know, that exclusivity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, on a different note, man, like I said, with you guys kind of stepping into the Softails, which the Softails is kind of like such a great platform that just needs guys like you, innovation, parts, options, so that people can, customize their bikes to their likings. And so I'm excited to have guys like you guys coming into the performance baggers or just the bagger in general. It doesn't necessarily have to be performance, but in the Softails, because it gives us some new perspectives,
Right.
some new toys to play with.
We've got some killer ideas, and we're going to have some cool stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
it's going to be an exciting year. We've had a good year. We doubled our catalog this year. We've been busy, and I expect to do it again by this time next year. But I love Dynas, I love FXRs, I love choppers, but just the whole new. Well, we're 3 years late to the game too. The Softail's been out for 3 years. Well, probably came out 4 years. It probably came out in late 17, even though they were called 18s, right?
Yeah, it was 17.
Yeah. So we're 4 years late to it, but regardless, here we are, and we're excited, and we've got a Road Glide sitting over there that we'll be doing stuff too, and it's like anything, man. Like I like beer, I like whiskey. Well, I've got a favorite kind of whiskey. That doesn't mean I'm not going to drink the whiskey you brought.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So it's the same thing with the bikes. Like, I prefer a chopper and then an FXR and then an adventure bike and then a Road Glide. That doesn't mean I don't like the Road Glide.
So before I bought that bike, I was on the fence between a GS, like 1200 or something, and then my Road Glide. But I don't make any money in the adventure game. That would have been a complete purchase for personal,
So let me tell you about the GS or any of those, like the BMW, the KTM, most of those, there's not much room for improvement.
Yeah.
There's not much room. There could
Put a
be
fat tire
personal.
on
Yeah, right. Extended swing arm.
Put some rims on this motherfucker.
So maybe a flame. I'd go for a flame job on it. But, you can call Olin's and say, what can you do? They're like, we don't do anything for the GS because there's nothing left to be done. It's there. It's done. We can't improve on it.
Yeah.
I made risers for it because nobody made risers tall enough for me. That's about the only thing I can do for it. I put a pipe on it. I got an Acropovic pipe on it. But other than that, those bikes don't leave a whole lot of room. And that's why, we were talking about getting into that realm and selling the risers and some of the other stuff that we thought we could make, and we just haven't yet because there's so much more room here. And honestly, as much as I love that bike and I love riding that bike, this is still where my heart is. In the choppers and the Softails and the Dynas and FXRs. So, and there's so much room for creativity here. You know what I mean? And your general BMW guy or KTM guy,
that's a good point, because when the Challenger came out, everybody was like, oh well, fucking, why would you buy a Harley now if you want to be in the performance baggers? Because this bagger is faster, comes with suspension, blah blah blah.
It's a nice bike. I mean, they've kind of fallen off the face of the earth since you heard about them that first month or two, right?
Yeah, because
I haven't heard much more about them.
It's gay as AIDS,
right?
I'm not an Indian fan at all, man. Personally, it's not that their bikes feel cheap. When you sit on them, when you touch it, when you touch the hand controls, when you open the bags, everything feels cheap and flimsy. You know what I mean? You look at a Harley like Goldwings probably have more shit on it. But so if you're like on a Challenger, right? If you look at a Road Glide, you look at the hand controls, just cleaner, more professional looking. You look at the Challenger, it looks like if you took a Kawasaki 500, like a little starter bike, and you had like the on-off switch, and you put those on the Challenger. It literally looks like cheap components all over the bike.
So I think probably where that comes from, because I've worked on those bikes in the past, and when it was called Victory, before it was Indian, it's all Polaris. So I think that they just come from a much more experienced manufacturing background. I mean, their market cap is 2 or 3 times the size of Harley's. They're a much bigger company.
Yeah.
So whereas they're not building near as many cruisers, they're also building side-by-sides, and they're building, this and that, and who knows if they're making lawnmowers and snowmobiles. I don't know what the hell they're making, but it's a much more I don't want to say experience, but a much more knowledgeable manufacturing.
Yeah.
So they're getting more performance out of it. It's got more horsepower. It's got better brakes. Got a better suspension. Well, then that has to come out in the manufacturing too, though. They're not going to put they're not going to put Behringer hand controls on it because.
All right, so check this out. When you buy a Harley and you have to put suspension on it or motor work, that's a kind of purchase, an upgrade that makes you feel fucking stoked. right? Like, fuck, dude, I can't wait to see what this pipe makes it feel like. I can't wait to see what it feels like with these bars on it. So when you buy something that already has that on there, has this and this, and then technically you got to upgrade the hand controls to get the quality that you know what I mean? There's no enjoyment out of it.
Right, I get that. I get that. But on the other hand, not everybody's like you and me, where they're like, oh, I'm so stoked to buy a $2,000 exhaust pipe.
Yeah, I mean,
you know, like, not everybody's like that.
The white collar dentist down the street can buy the BMW and just park it and ride it.
Yeah,
and that's what, for us as a business, for our side of the business, maybe not as much yours, that's where you're like, well, what do we weigh here? Because, like, one guy that's buying that bike may never know the difference in suspension.
True.
In the next guy, he may not know the difference between 60 horsepower and 110 horsepower. He just wants to be able to say his bike has 110 horsepower.
Yeah.
And he wants to show the receipt for it and the dyno numbers, but he can't keep up with me on a panhead.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's those guys. So just on down the road and everything in between and to both sides. So, like, for us, we got to go, because, like, we're making a part right now that this foot peg deal that we're doing, and it's like, is it too big? Do we make another size that's a little bit smaller? Who's going to want this? Who's going to want that? And then you go, okay, so we'll do both. And then how much are they going to want? And you go, well, you know what? If it's going to cost $2,000 for a set of foot pegs, obviously you don't do it. But like my risers are $600 to $700. But you're basically buying two sets of risers for the price of one expensive set of risers. And there's other $700 risers out there that don't do what mine do. So then it's such a game, not even a game, it's such a puzzle for us to put together. Like, you know, what is and I think that comes down to, you know, Indian has to say the same thing.
Okay.
Do we do the killer hand controls, or do we back that off and do a little bit more chintzy looking set of hand controls and we give them the 110 horsepower and the suspension you don't have to fuck with and the brakes you don't have to fuck with?
Yeah.
Because for me, you know, you buy a GS and it's got Brembo brakes on it. And you got technically 6 different suspension settings plus 2 different suspension heights. 137 horsepower. You put a pipe on it, you're at 150. I like that. But on a Harley, you know, it's just like, damn, dude, you spend, you know, what's a new Road Glide? $28,000 if it's not really done up at all.
Well, the special is 28, and then it's only like $2,000 less to have the standard or something like that, like 24.
Yeah, so why not get and then you're gonna put a pipe on it. Like, look at the pipes on this thing.
Yeah, dude.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Look at the tail, like the actual tailpipe.
Plug the fender.
You could plug it up with a grape. I mean, it's horrible. I mean,
Yeah.
and it sounds like a sewing machine.
This is like the base of the base model though. So I mean, you got fucking
That's the
spoke
standard,
wheels.
yeah.
And you got room.
Yeah,
You
to
pay
do it.
$13,000 for it. Okay.
Paying
So you
$13,000
still
for that motor and that frame,
107.
basically.
Couldn't you have paid a couple $100 more and had a better pipe than that,
Yeah.
though? I mean, that's just. I mean,
Well,
so
I get the selling point of Harley to kind of leave it, you know, priced down.
Totally get it.
But you know, like
It's more the bigger, more expensive bikes. Sorry to cut you off. It's more
Yeah.
the bigger, the Road Glides and stuff. It's like, well, fuck, man, you guys ought to have killer brakes on here and a suspension that you could go better on, but you don't have to.
yeah.
You know, like you guys
I think
both
that's
rolled in.
coming though. I think that
Yeah.
you know from a couple sources, I think that either this coming up year or the following year, we're gonna get some major changes in
I
Road
hope
Glides.
so.
Like
I criticize Harley a lot, but I love them and I wish them the best because
Yeah.
if they falter, it's not going to be good for any of us.
no, for sure. But like I said, they can just literally leave kind of the same shapes and just modernize a couple of little areas,
Right.
maybe lighting, maybe you know different little areas, suspension, things like that. They would re-inspire. Like I literally had a Road Glide. I had a 17. I bought it brand new, painted it, but I had my gold FXR at the same time, my full fairing one. I was like, man, I like riding my FXR more. And then Harley came out with the 2019 version of that with those, like the side spoilers that leave the fairing all the way down. I literally only bought that bike because of that. Because it looks so good in my eyes. Like I fucking love that. A fucking $400 piece that they added to the same Road Glide that's been out for 4 years.
Made you go buy
Made me
another Road
spend $28,000 on a new one. You know what I mean? So like when you add these little things to it, you know,
Do you think they leave some of that stuff off on purpose so you come in and you buy the LED lighting?
I wish they would. You know, remember the last Road Glide, the old one, when they finally came out with the LED lights for it? Dude, they were expensive.
They don't have them for these?
Well, you know, like the one I have in there is the electric lighting, which I fucking love it. But I wish Harley would come up with a more sporty kind of headlight option for this. You know, because like headlights now have like the LEDs and they have like kind of smoked kind of light trims. And dude, make some shit like that to put on these bikes.
That should be original equipment on all of them.
It should,
or at least as an option. Like, why are not all lights LED now?
Yeah,
I mean, seriously.
And so like that, and then even like I would gripe on the fact that, you know, my year model was the first year they came out with their new radio that's all touchscreen, and I love it. I think it's a great radio, but basic radios in fucking Kias that are fucking $10,000 cars have more shit going on in there. That thing could do so much more. Right. You know, that it should be doing so much more than just letting me know where the dealerships are in America and the gas stations. Like, get the fuck out of here, dude. Like, give me some ways. Give me the ability to put my goddamn phone on there and get like Google Maps on there so I can see if a cop's coming in a couple. They'll easily type. You know how hard it is to type on your fucking Road Glide to kind of pull up an address somewhere because it doesn't have the database. As soon as you start typing in ST and then it says Lewis. Right. You know what I mean? I have to fucking spell it out like. That's what pisses me off about it.
Well, that's just kind of classic Harley, though. They're always
first world problems.
Yeah.
My $28,000 bike GPS sucks. Let's burn that place down. Fuck it, man. It's crazy.
So that's about. I mean, I got you buy one of those GSs and you're into it for $25 without the bags.
Mm-hmm. Did you get the adventure one, the big tank and everything?
The big tank,
yeah. See, I was totally going down that path, and I was looking at because they have the shorter suspension because I'm a short fuck.
My dad has that one.
Oh, he does?
Yeah.
And I was like, man, like I want to do that, but I was kind of scared of the weight of the bike being so top heavy and
it weighs the same as an FXR.
It does?
575.
Oh fuck.
I rode it, but I couldn't touch the ground.
Yeah, he rode it like a pro. It's got that weird like it almost looks like an A-arm on the front of a car.
Yeah.
So like the steering stem, there's nothing connecting it to where the shock and everything is. It's nuts. It's crazy. So it makes the bike very light.
Okay.
Unless you were to drop it, and then it's still 575 pounds. But as far as handling the bike and everything, it's a very light bike.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. So this year, like, you know, you guys were doing a lot of shows. You were planning on it. I mean, it kind of got stifled a little bit, but
got kind of screwed up.
You think that if things get back to normal, you plan on doing a lot of shows next year, or what do you?
Yeah, so that's going to be part of his job. You know, we're talking about getting him like a transit van or
he was telling me about that.
Yeah, and you know, stickering it up. We've got kind of a cool plan on how even when there's not a show, he's going to be traveling
somewhere.
Send him in 5 or 6 different directions every month or two.
Yeah,
and
come see you and do not the opposite, not podcast, but maybe YouTube.
Yeah, we're gonna start doing the YouTube stuff a lot more.
That'd be cool, man. Like, seeing more shops like embrace the YouTube thing and starting to create that kind of content. I think it'll help us weed out the fake shit.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Because you can see what's really going on.
You know, this is what's really happening. Or
and it'll also for you mentioned shows. So like I've always had a problem with show promoters. Man, they're not nice to us. I mean, I haven't paid for a booth space or something like that in 10 or 12 years. But at the same time, they promise you the world, and you're just there to sell.
So the funny thing about shows is, if you think about it, man, nowadays, if you're not there, what's the attraction? You know what I mean? Like if it's
you mean if we don't if the shops don't show up?
You know, so this year at Sturgis, the Buffalo Chip was trying to do a club style theme, and they were reaching out to all these different shops, including mine in America, saying that they'll let us set up a booth for Sturgis for like $3,500. And I'm like, first off, I don't sell anything to set up a booth, but secondly, like, so you want to promote club style bikes or performance bikes, whatever the fuck, however you want to word it, and you want to get people to come to your place that are into those bikes, because right now the people that are into those bikes are probably not staying at the Buffalo Chip because it's so fucking expensive. And you want to charge me $3,500 and use my own marketing and social media to bring people to your place.
It's a good business plan on their end.
Yeah, but it's like, bro, I mean, just like when back in the day, like Joe Martin used to get paid to go to shows.
Yeah.
Like I am the attraction. It sucks to say that, but
no, it doesn't. It doesn't. And because you and I are programmed to be hardworking and keep our nose to the grindstone and stay blue collar, we're programmed not to say that kind of shit. But it's not like you're not yelling at somebody like I'm better than you. It's like, hey, look, if you don't have us there, you don't have a show. Why am I paying you to be a part of something that I'm making?
Yeah.
It should be the other way around. Or We can all be decent people, and we show up. You take decent care of us. We bring people in. We make money. You make money. We all go home. You know, it was the same way, man. The first time I went and set up at Sturgis, 05, 06 sometime, I paid $7,000 to be on the lot at Full Throttle. The old Full Throttle, obviously, before it burned down. Oh, what a kick in the nuts that was, you know, when you're not even 30 years old.
I think Covington pays between $12,000 and $20,000.
Is he right there off Lizelle?
No, he's at fucking the Harley dealership.
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's probably money well spent.
Yeah, I mean, because they sell so many bikes in Sturgis, but same thing. Like I used to be, I'm still good friends with the guys that run Sinister Wheels, and you know we were hanging out in Daytona. He's like, yeah, I paid $20,000 to be here at Destination Daytona. And that's just to be here. That's not driving my semi from NorCal all the way to there to set up to sell
$6,000
rims
for lodging for you and your crew, and then dinners. And
so it's like almost a $40,000 investment to be there, and then you got to sell $40,000 worth of wheels to break even and to make money. It's like at some point it just gets to the point where it's like, all right, man, this isn't fucking working. So you see declines in like Daytona, right? Nobody fucking gets stoked to go to Daytona really, but because it's at the beginning of the year after like everybody's been fucked from the winter, it's like fuck, finally something. So it still gets
see all your buddies.
Yeah, you find it's like a
go to Lollipops.
People do go, but then everybody does the same thing. It's like fuck, man, I don't know why I keep coming here every year.
Right, that's why I haven't been there since 2010 because it doesn't do anything for me. I miss seeing my friends there, and that's it.
Well, some of these things, like some of these rallies, same thing with the Rock Rally, right? So they reached out to me a couple of years ago.
Is that still going on?
Yeah.
Oh shit! So, I thought it was over with.
No, it was like 25 or 30 years, whatever. But they reached out, and they're like, you know, we want to try to bring a different crowd because that crowd turned into golf carts.
Yep.
Mobile or whatever, fucking
RVs,
and it just like kind of a nudist colony, kind of old people want to just gross shit. There's some nice shit there, but mostly gross shit.
I know, I've been to it.
It's kind of a fun shit show to just be there to watch for like a night. You know what I mean? But so they hit me up and they wanted to like find a way to bring in a new crowd, and of course it's $70 to get into the motherfucker, right?
Nope.
And I said, well, this is the one thing. This is why Sturgis is probably the best thing because they do it in a town that's never going to grow bigger than where it's at.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it hasn't.
Oh, right.
And there's space, and you could do so many things. Daytona outgrew Daytona Bike Week.
Big time.
So now it's like they have to do it down the street 30 miles away, you know, and then even now on Main Street, I think that they're shutting it down stuff. Like you can't.
Are they really?
Yeah, it's like you got the Speedway and you got Destination Daytona and a couple bars down there. It's like it's gotten too big for the town, or the town's gotten too big to have that kind of event there. So you kind of need to move it somewhere more rural again. And the same thing with Rock Rally. Austin used to be very tiny back in the 80s.
Right.
Now it's fucking the new LA,
it's
right?
huge.
It's huge.
So Rock Rally needs to go to like Fredericksburg or somewhere out in West Texas that's a smaller town and has more room to be a big event.
And wouldn't it be so how long does that $70 get you in for? A day or for the whole week?
I can't remember because it's been a couple of years, but it's literally what you just asked me. It's either a day or the whole week.
So like
their rally's a Thursday through Sunday deal.
That's right. Okay.
It's not like a week or two like Daytona is.
So why not? This always bewildered me. Like, why not charge $5-10? Because anybody's gonna pay $5 or $10, and then you're making your money off the beer and T-shirts.
Yeah, I think
charge another $1.
I think their problem is like
beer.
all those like Buffalo Chips and Full Throttles and Rock Rally. They're all doing that same model that has worked, but it's going away. It's not cool anymore, and they're bringing in ZZ Top and all this shit. Which I got buddies like, dude, I want to see ZZ Top at Sturgis. That'd be dope. I kind of agree, but at the same time, I'm in Sturgis on bikes, man. I don't know if I have time to go watch a concert.
If I can, I will, but I'm not there for that.
So I don't want to
But there's a lot of people that go there for that.
sure.
They load the RV up, and it's their vacation every year, and they look forward to it because they saw titties the first year in 1978. Yeah. And they've been going back ever since that set of titties in 1978. And now they're paying $120 a night to park their RV.
So this is another question I want to ask you that I have to see if I can navigate it right. But one of my buddies is kind of in the chopper world, in the vintage chopper world, was saying like, man, Born Free Not Happen's really screwing a lot of bike shops over, right? It's like they don't have anywhere to go to show off their work. And I'm like, why don't they go to Sturgis? Well, that's not really their crowd. I'm like, it's their responsibility to turn it into their crowd.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So like you have to, you don't have these safe spaces for you and your little chopper fucking world. You gotta.
Why wouldn't you want to get it if it's your business? Get out of your comfort zone and convert somebody.
Yeah.
Like if you think Sturgis isn't your crowd, go out there and kick every ass at the show.
Yeah.
And convert them and be like, show them something new. Show them show them what's actually cool, not what you've been told is cool. Like there's a lot of fruity ass shows at Sturgis, but there's some good shows there too. Like Joe's show, the FXR show is good.
Yeah.
Jeff's show is good. Lead Sled does a Sportster show, which is a good show. And then you've got, Steve Broyles that used to be with the horse, and he owns Stevenson Cycles. He does a good old school chopper show, and there was a couple other ones.
Little Evil show, it's a little performance bike show they do kind of later in the week. And, even
or have some nuts and schedule your own show.
Yeah.
Do your own, not call it Born Free, but do your own, with those kind of bikes. Like, have some nuts and get with a promoter and do something out there.
Yeah, it's like I said, man, Sturgis is kind of like the, it's like a blessing that we as a motorcycle industry have this amazingly huge event that is going to go through waves of changes just like the motorcycle industry does. So, when something, and I think the chopper dudes are like, well, they don't really want it to be like super mainstream. I'm like, well, then don't complain about not having work because your other show's out of it. You either are in this for a capitalistic idea or you want to be this garage builder that never grows your business and you only sell stuff to your boys, which they're probably not paying you that much. You know
so it's that whole punk rock mentality. But how many of the punk rockers from 1970 are still making money? I mean, aside from residual checks coming in, which good luck getting residuals from the chopper world. You're not going to get a check for a bike you built 30 years ago. That doesn't happen. Yeah. You're going to have to stay busy. So how many of those punk rockers are still putting out music and still touring, and people are like, they're all fucking cooks in restaurants and like doing, like whatever. Maybe they're doing a book tour or they're on a reality TV show for rehab or something. But legitimately though, like, you gotta, it's like, what the fuck is mainstream? We're in a small industry and we're in a tiny niche of a small industry.
Yeah.
Like, motorcycles, especially the American cruiser market, is not a huge industry. By dollars and purchasing and the whole deal, it's not a big industry. And we're in a tiny little bitty piece of it.
Yeah.
So every, just say Harley puts out 100,000, which I'm sure it's more, but say they make 100,000 motorcycles a year. Out of those 100,000, what are relative to your paint jobs and my parts? Of course, you can paint every single one of them, and I can make a part for every single one of them. But how many of those 100,000 bikes a year actually come and ask you for a paint job and come and ask me or Brad or whomever for parts? 2,000 of them, if we're lucky. Yeah. I mean, it's a small little fucking world.
And that's why, like, taking care of, and like we touched on earlier, making sure that current customers, the guys that are in the industry, spending big bucks to build bikes and give shops the opportunity to show the world what they can do on not their own dime. You know what I mean? Like I said, you want to make sure that these customers had a great experience and they want to come back and build another bike. And like you said earlier about a lot of the fucking shitty chopper shops and shitty bagger shops kind of turned away a lot of people that were willing to spend $100,000 on a bike because they got fucked around.
I wish those customers were still around.
Yeah.
And they're not.
Yeah, I wish I could get $10,000 for a chopper paint job.
I'll give you 5.
There you go. That's kind of what I charge for them. So. No, it's but like I said, man, it's but people just got to be aware of that type of stuff, man, because without customers, we don't have an industry, and and
you gotta. We all get irritated with this and that, but man, you really gotta appreciate every single customer. Yeah, I mean, you do, even the ones that are kind of dicks, because you never know why they're being a dick. And like I had a guy on, he sent me a DM the other day because he was unhappy with something from 2 years ago. And I mean, I think he might have been pretty deep in the bottle that night because it came through at 2:00 in the morning. And and I could have been like, yeah, you know what, man, go fuck yourself. It was 2 years ago, and it was a product I don't even make. It wasn't, but it was something I had sold him, and he was unhappy with what happened. I said, tell you what, I'm going to help you out, like whatever I can offer you at my cost to replace that part. It was suspension parts. And I said, I'll offer you whatever I can. And he totally backed down, and then it was back to being bro. That could have gone one of two, many ways. Yeah. And I was like, first I'm like, God damn, dude, this guy's drunk and, motherfucking me and everything else. And I'm like, listen, man, I'm very sorry. Yeah. It was by no design of mine. How can I help you? What can we do? Because I want that guy, it's way better for him to come back to me in the future or to at least say, hey, there was a thing that happened with bare knuckle, but he made good on it.
Yeah.
That's way better than going the other way. So hopefully I save that guy from saying fuck Harleys or fuck,
Yeah, exactly.
performance, or just whatever, and then, switching to another bike or getting rid of bikes. Because I've literally heard guys say I was into it, but that industry screws you around so hard, I got out of motorcycles. People have literally told me that.
Yeah.
Like guys that would buy a couple of bikes a year. Or not a couple of bikes a year, but buy a bike from a custom builder every couple of years. We had good customers like that.
Did you know, like in the chopper craze, there used to be like guys, and I think there's always been guys like this, but there'd be like really, really rich dudes who would almost pay shops to just be a part of the shop. At events and rallies and hanging out.
I still know them by name. I still know those
guys. They're like, they kind of act like they're owners, but they put money in. They don't get anything back out of it other than the fact that they're there. And that's what helped a lot of those shops have those 18-wheelers and look way bigger than they ever did, Misfit Customs and things like that. It's kind of crazy, the shit that it's
how does it get like that? That's so crazy.
I wish I was that good of a talker. I could just talk a dude out of $1 million. Like, yeah, bro, slide me a little meal real quick. Let's go have some fun.
Got you.
And go be on some Steven Seagal movies and shit.
I'm riding with you.
Here, y'all talking. I gotta piss.
Well, hell, now we got control of it. I don't know what to talk about. Why don't you tell us something? Tell us what you do, CW.
Basically, come in, kind of work with Paul, get him out of some of his older ways, but not out of his older ways. Trying to promote projects, put the parts in your hand so you can see them, touch, feel, hold on to them, take our bike. One of the bikes or the two bikes I'll have with me will be fully bare knuckle pauled out. Take it for an hour ride. Come back the next day. Don't care as long as you come back with your response.
Mm-hmm.
Make this world that we're in, the motorcycle world, is a chopper world still, regardless of the bike you're building. You still buy it to chop it up.
Yep.
You buy the bike to chop it up, to buy the parts that keep this industry busier, and basically
keep you happy too. Make your bike more enjoyable to ride.
Everybody's bike is a blonde, a brunette, and a redhead. It's all the same.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever bike part you like, buy them.
Yeah, don't buy from us. Just buy from a quality American.
No negativity. To keep the negativity out, there's no need to put kindling in the fire. When the fire gets burnt out, it goes away. If you keep putting kindling in the fire gets bigger for no reason. Guess what? Then somebody's either got to put it out, or there's 10 people putting kindling in the fire.
Right.
Who cares? Negativity should be cut out from all this. It's a motorcycle world. Everybody does theirs different. I'm not going to say Jace's paint jobs suck because I paint differently than him. I want you to go get Jace's paint job.
Yeah.
I can't paint like Jace. Nobody paints the same. Everybody has their own style. The features on bikes are because of what you want, how you want to build it, who's building it, and who's going to be your peer for that part. It's not that we hate on anybody, and anybody shouldn't hate. It's the products out there are different for everybody, and they're for everybody to be different, so they can be different than the next person.
Yeah.
That being said, if somebody's being an asshole, expect to be called an asshole.
Well,
Yeah.
on a different sense.
But at
yes.
the same time,
Yes.
we don't like. Before we even started the podcast, we were talking about a couple of people that can definitely be called asshole, but there's no sense in even bringing. Just like you said, no negativity.
Waste
we
of
don't.
time,
we don't
waste
do.
of breath
Yeah, it's like,
means
and it.
waste of
People
energy.
that are listening that know us and know Jace's podcast, they're going to know probably a couple of people we're talking about without mentioning their name, and I'm not going to pay them the creed to even hear their name on the radio.
Yeah, and that's kind of the
podcast.
thing. It's like if you just stop, talking about it, stop shining on it.
Those people they're not going to be relevant in 10 years.
They're gonna always chase, for lack of a better term, the whatever's popular at the time.
Yeah, for sure.
And, they're kind of trend chasers, if that makes sense.
Yep. No, that's a term that I'm very, very familiar with. I mean, we say that about a few people, but at the same time, we don't talk about it much. I got no time for negativity.
Yeah,
Keep pushing forward.
Exactly. It's like walking down the street and yelling at every dog that barks at you. You're never gonna get to the end of the street.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, you're
And the
right.
dog's still barking when you leave.
Yeah, that's it.
Just keep walking.
Yeah, man. It's I think that most people in this industry, most people that I talk to, that I get a chance to be around, are genuinely fucking solid people. You know what I mean? Like, I think the majority of the industry is pretty damn good. You know, and there's always just the ones that are kind of, even like, you know, Von Metal, you heard of the guy, right? Everybody made fun of the dude because of his little YouTube or his video because he was going to do a TV show. This dude's just a hardcore biker. He's a club dude. His whole life's fucking 100 miles an hour. Fucking, that's just who he is. He's actually exactly like he portrayed himself on the video. And that motherfucker jumped in his car on Father's Day and drove 400 miles to pick up one of my buddies in the middle of Nevada that had a flat tire on a damn spoke wheel and we couldn't get a tube anywhere on Father's Day. You know what I mean? Like, solid dude. He might have come off crazy on his video. It doesn't mean he's an asshole, but you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of really good people out there that are in this industry, and if you ride bikes, you kind of had that commonality that you know, like that brotherhood almost.
Oh,
like,
for sure.
Yeah, stop
Brother-
what you're doing on any given day and come help another motorcycle.
And you can tell the guys that are going to pull over and help you when you're broke down on the side of the road.
Man, I'm bad at that, dude. I drive past people all the time.
I at least slow down and look over and go, "You okay?" Because they've always
I'm
got
like,
a phone in their hand.
yeah.
I mean, I'll at least ask.
I do
There
that.
weren't phones in their hands back in your days.
Yeah.
No, you know how many times I've tied a gas tank back on with my shoelaces and put my socks on between the tank and the
But he tied
backbone.
his shoestring different than everybody else. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's fun, man.
I'm not gonna say I miss those days of bikes breaking down, but that was part of the adventure back then. Not having a cell phone and having to get your bike,
Yeah.
to the nearest town
Well,
and find a hardware store.
That's kind of the thing. It's like, I feel like it'd be easier for me, it'd be easier to enjoy the chopper and the possibility of breaking down once I'm older because I'll have more time
When you
and
have
more.
a cell phone then.
Yeah. But, you know,
I
like,
was talking more about like just not making your bikes break down anymore. And of course, it helps that I'm not riding as old a
Performance
motorcycles I used to. But yeah, it's a little bit of all of it. You know?
I look at these new Softails, the Bagger, the Dynas, all the recent stuff as like, for me and kind of like my age group and most people in my age group, like most people that are in 38, most people that have done their life correctly, they have a job where they've accumulated a couple weeks a year and vacation, and they can start doing these kind of bike trips. And the last thing you want to do is be on a vacation for 2 weeks and you're going to Yellowstone and all this shit, and your bike breaks down the first 300 miles and your trip's over. You know what I mean?
It happens though.
It happens.
It happens a lot. How lucky are we though that like we don't have to? We got to budget our time and keep our business running, but we can take off for 2 weeks and have a motorcycle trip. And you're doing business right now, and you're hanging out with bike guys. You got to experience the Warrenton, Missouri
party.
Applebee's last night.
Applebee's
and the
forever.
hideout or hideaway,
Might
whatever
get
they
you
call
that
it.
tattoo
Applebee's.
before you leave.
Yeah, Trapplebee's. But you're calling. I mean, and it is work.
It is work. It's just I picked this life, and
But you've earned it. Like, don't
Yeah.
let anybody say, "Oh, look what you get to do." It's like, bitch.
Yeah.
I work on Sunday. I work late into the night on Friday night and Tuesday night, and I'm up
Exactly.
early. And when the telephone, this is the first time the phone hasn't been in my hand.
Yeah.
I mean, in weeks, because I got DM.
Yeah.
I got to stay on that shit. I got to answer comments. I got to do this. I got to do that. Like, we earn it.
Yeah.
But we're awful lucky too, and I appreciate every single customer that we have right now and everyone we've ever had. I'll tell them all thank you right now, because without them, we wouldn't be here.
for sure.
And we can't forget that. We're very fortunate to have anybody, because it's all play money.
Yeah.
Nobody needs a
We sell
custom paint
luxury.
job. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sell yourself to be different.
Yeah, if I would, I mean, fuck, I think collision guys make way better money than I do for sure. But
Paint a black bumper or a
What
gray
a,
one.
what a torturous job, though.
yeah,
to me,
it's monotonous. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You're doing
right,
the same thing
right.
all the time. You have to play the corporate games and working in a place, in a job place. You got to go to human resources and all that
They
bullshit.
chose to do that.
Can't
instead
say
of what you're
the
doing.
F word, any of them.
That
Right,
job
any of the
sucks.
F
That job
words.
sucks. My fucking boss is weird.
Yeah. So I mean, I get that. Yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of like luxuries that come with that lifestyle that we don't get to have. It's kind of like the fairing thing, right? I've never really had a job with vacation or 401k or health insurance or dental, clearly. You know what I mean? So it's like, for me, since I ain't never had it, I don't have anything to compare it to. So I've always kind of worked for myself.
You've probably never had much desire, though, or you may have found it. I don't have, I lived in that world for a very short time. Very short, couple of years.
Yeah.
and it was. I mean, I wouldn't have lasted another year or two. I'd have blown my brains out.
I went to a couple. I go. Another thing one buddy of mine said that I deal with too all the time is the emotional roller coaster of being self-employed, right? And being a creative on top of that is even more of an emotional roller coaster because you're questioning your vision on parts,
your judgment,
and everything, right?
Yep.
So there's times whenever I'm on the highest of highs and I feel like I can fucking do anything and be anything and whatever. And then there's times where I just feel like, man, maybe I should have went the corporate or the job path,
right.
So 2017, I was in that boat and I was like, fuck, I don't know what the hell I want to do. So I went to work for Misfit 2 days and then I quit. I was like, fuck this. Because I've always told myself that I could work for somebody as long as I respect that person.
Right.
And I actually feel like they are in their position because they know more than me. But to work for somebody and the person that is only there because of seniority and it's not because of skill, knowledge, or anything like that, I can't deal with that.
It's hard to get into that position too when you're a creator like you are.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you're an artist, dude. So like that, I couldn't even imagine having to manage artists.
Yeah.
Because there are situations where that happens. I couldn't imagine doing it. You can't really be restrained.
It's hard.
And like, I mean, look at us. How long have you been? You've been in business since 03 or 04?
I haven't been in business, but I've been doing this since.
Okay, so however many years I've been in it for 17. So I can't imagine going to a job where like, yeah, you got to be here at 7 and you can leave at 3:30. I'm like,
I've done it for 30 years till now.
And I've never, since you've been here, I've never once asked you when are you going to be at work and how late are you working. I'm just like,
when you're a professional, right? When you're a professional, you or an adult, for lack of a better term. You know what your fucking job is. So you know that you need to be here because you know you need to get that done because you understand how business works. I know that I need to get this out so this company makes money so my check comes through. Right. But the weird thing that I felt like in the last couple of years, especially when I've tried to hire people, is that people like employees, like people that want a job, they think that you owe them money.
Mm-hmm. Everybody thinks you owe them now.
You know what I mean? Like you owe them something.
I'm lucky to have you as an employee, whereas where I grew up, I was lucky to have the job, and I was kissing that boss's job because my mom and dad didn't give me anything because they didn't have much to give, but they also taught me you got to earn it, kid. So I had jobs, throwing hay when I was 12 years old, up to getting a job for the first time when I was 14 when it was legal to have a real job. Mm-hmm. Always working, always trying to climb somehow. How can I make another buck? Can I get some overtime? This and that. To me, I wasn't entitled to shit. I was very fortunate to have that job. And now, none of my employees now, which I don't even call them my employees, I call it my crew, because, I share everything with these guys and we're a family as much as anything. But other employees I've had in the past, it was like, well, you need me. Well, you're lucky that I'm here. Well, fuck it. It's not my job. I can go ahead and leave or whatever. Yeah. And it's like, well, that's not going to promote anything positive, honestly. Yeah. And you're just going to be taking your toolbox down the road to the next place here before too long.
What I always tell people that have that kind of attitude, I was like, well, then why is what you're doing now not as good, or why are you not on the same level you were when you were at that last shop?
Yeah. If it's always somebody else's fault or there's an excuse.
Yeah, and those kind of people, that's more of a personal issue that people have. Yeah. But like I said, when it kind of goes back to the whole apprenticeship thing. It's like people just look at a job like it's a much different thing. Like there's all these things that a job owes you when it's like, no, this is an opportunity is what it is.
That's it's an opportunity.
Yeah. I don't owe you anything. Like I'm giving you an opportunity to work here. And your job is to make this business money. That's your fucking job.
Right.
Not this job pays you. It's backwards, right? So a lot of people don't understand that, like, for me to be a valuable employee, I have to make the company I work for money. Therefore, that means that I'm making more money for the company that I'm taking home. That's actually how this shit works.
Right. Yeah. It's my business for 10 hours when I'm here.
Yeah. So if I'm not, if put it like this, if I'm not making, I'm trying to find an analogy that might work, but put it like this: if I make $3,000 a month, that's my salary, right? To have a job, that job needs to be making at least $6,000 to $9,000.
Well, I mean, if you're paying taxes on an employee and you're the FICA and the Social Security and all this other bullshit, if you're giving them $20 an hour, you got to set aside $40 an hour.
Yeah. So
you like that's 40 and you haven't made a dime. It's for me to pay you $20 an hour. I mean, you know this. I got to pretty much be able to afford $40 an hour. That's my budget. So okay, you get $800 is your check. I got to have $1,600 a week just to pay you. That's without me making a dollar or keeping the lights on. And I think, how many times have you had a guy or seen a guy in other jobs where he's like, I don't care what I do. I'll push a broom. I'll clean. I'll do. If you can teach me to do oil changes, which we don't do that, but you know, and then you finally give them a shot, and like, all right, I'll give you a shot, and I'll teach you a little bit of stuff. And they're like, yeah, I think I'm going to move on. I didn't know it was, you know, because you got them standing in front of a lathe making widgets all day, and they don't like that. I'm like, you told me you'd push a broom, and I'm already teaching you how to be a machinist.
Yeah.
And how to, you know, clean parts up and deburr parts and assemble, and that's not exciting enough because, you know, you're not building choppers all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Like, you got to earn it, man. And I don't want to seem like I'm negative to whoever's listening or whatever because, you know, I'm especially with the crew.
But you need to help manage expectations of what it actually means to work for somebody, to work in a business, and to work. What looks good on social media is not every day.
Not
right?
every day.
Right.
Like, the paint job that looks badass and is getting a lot of likes right now is getting a lot of likes, but
you didn't see me sanding it until 3 a.m.
was horrible. You know what I mean? Like, that's not fun. Like, it's not glorious. Like, there's a lot of grunt work to make the glory shit shine. You know what I mean?
And you don't see the 20 years before today that it took me metalworking and welding and machining to make that gas tank.
Yeah.
And to mount it on a cool
You didn't
frame.
see the first time I tried to do an orange and black bike. Right. That one probably sucked. Now, over almost...
That one was wadded up and thrown in the pile.
This week.
Yeah, so now it's like I got certain things down, and it just with time, man, you know?
Yeah.
And a lot of people just don't understand the time thing. I know that there are prodigies out there that have only been doing a certain thing for a couple of years, and they're just fucking amazing
They get
at it.
Yeah.
That is definitely a thing.
happens.
But...
Those are go-getters, though, that they're not coming up to you and asking for a handout or to suck on the tit a little bit. They went out and did it on their own, you know, like that's how I did it. The guy wouldn't give me a job, but I already had a half-ass little, you know, fab shop in my garage at home.
Yeah.
I built a frame jig while I was working for a different guy. He didn't even know I was building it. You know, I had, you know, my own TIG welder at home. I had a little bitty bandsaw. I had my bender and notcher for doing the frames. I took that on myself to do it. Mm-hmm. You know, I wasn't asking somebody else to teach me how to build frames. You know, and this is all pre-internet almost.
Yeah.
You know, this is like 2000,
It's hard to find
2001.
that shit. And Wolfgang Puck hadn't started making book shit, how to build a chopper.
Right, exactly. So I took it on myself to learn it and to teach myself and to figure things out and soak up every little bit of knowledge I could find out there.
Yeah, and
so those are the Christian Newmans and the Hawk Lashes of those guys. Like, they weren't around, you know, sucking any ass. They're like, I got to figure out how to do this.
You know what's great about like that era of the chopper, right? So a lot of people that I've had on the podcast that I think are talented as fuck, TPJ up in NorCal.
He's so good.
A lot of these guys started off in the same time you did, right at that boom, of the chopper thing. But then you don't really hear about them much until they really start to gain their experience, and then all of a sudden around 08, 09, 10, you start seeing these amazing
Bikes
bikes being built. You know, and you got to think, well, you know, Billy Lane probably started early 90s.
Early 90s, I think,
and then by the time it was right time, right place, blew up, and there's this dude that's already got.
I mean, it takes time
years.
to not just. One of the most satisfying things I think in my career was, it takes a long time to hone your craft and to be good at what you do and to get to the point where you can actually make money and not lose money. You know, you know, I'm at a point now where I can build something in 8 hours. It used to take me 20, you know, just because either equipment or experience. But one of the most satisfying things is to see your own style come about. You know what I mean? Because
I know exactly what you mean.
your early paint jobs, people could probably definitely tell whose influence you had.
Exactly.
My bikes, you could tell, like, oh, he likes, you know, Billy Lane, or he likes Indian Larry, or he likes Jesse James. Yeah. But then when you take all that stuff and you start adding your own little twist on it, or your own tweaks, or what you think makes it a better bike, like when I build a chopper, I think mine look different from everybody else's, you know.
I think people have a hard time admitting the fact that we're all influenced by somebody, and we're all everything we do creatively is a mixture of the influences, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So, you know, painters especially, like I could tell you a lot of painters that even to this day influence me and have helped push me into the direction which I'm fortunate enough to be able to confidently say that I have a style that came about by blending lowrider traditional paint jobs with race car helmet style.
Yeah.
Right? That's my style. That not that I don't think I invented it or anything, but though that's my thing, is putting these two styles of paint jobs together to create kind of its own thing, right? And it's obviously, like I said, race helmets. I love Austin Poland. I love a lot of the guys that do those fucking NASCAR helmets and shit. I love that look, but then again, I like fucking Flake and Candy and Leaf.
Right. No, I love that. And like, if you look at some of the bikes on the walls and stuff, like that red one right there behind you, see it's got forward controls and a handlebar. It's got a Springer front end.
Yeah.
I built that bike in like 04, 05. Well, then like
I painted,
06.
in my life, I've painted and molded so many of those fucking front ends.
Have you really?
Yeah.
With those front, that Springer.
Yeah.
Around 06, 07, then you see I'm going to mid controls and I'm running ISR hand controls, which is a little more high performance, borderline, not really a sport bike control, but you see that race influence, like you're saying, and more of a rideability kind of a thing, and better brakes. And, I still built, plenty of choppers with no front brake and, a drum rear brake and all that kind of stuff. But you definitely see that, influence of, wait, it's a chopper, but it's got race bike shit on it. Well, what are you doing? I'm like, it's
You're
what
pushing
I like.
the envelope,
man.
man.
It's like what we like,
Stopping where you got your feet down dragging.
Right.
Well, a lot of things. That's what. If things didn't change, right, then things would get boring and go away. So like, I've been saying the performance chopper thing is inspiring to me, and it's because I like dynas and quarter fairings and fucking T-bars.
Well, that's what we like to say about either. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. What we like to say about our chopper or our FXR is you're going to see chopper influence on the FXR, and you're going to see FXR influence on the chopper.
Yeah.
Let's blend it all. It's all chopper. It's all hot rod is what it all really is. It's all the hot rod influence because, those got started in the late 20s, early 30s, whenever. However you want to go about that whole history. But that's a direct influence upon motorcycles and choppers and everything that we're into. It's all that, cut some weight off of it, put a bigger carburetor on it, and let's go race.
Make it run.
And let's go raise hell and find some chicks. That's what we all got into it for. That's what we all got into bikes for.
Do chicks still like bikes? I feel like all I do is get dudes to like me.
Keep it to yourself, Jace.
No, it's like, where are the girls at, man? I'm married. I'm not looking. I need to feel important still, man.
That's right.
Gotta stay relevant.
Gotta stay
You're
relevant.
important, Jace.
So you go to bike night, all the chicks they don't give two shits, but fuck, man, dynas bring boys to the yard, don't they? Bro, what bars though? What fairing is that? What seat is that?
It's written right there on the seat, man. Go look at it.
I hate that shit on Instagram. Hey, man.
I know.
What exhaust is that?
What
I don't know.
rides are those
Look
bars
on the
and-
picture where it's tagged, nerd. Or read it. Read the post.
For sure.
It's the world we live in, man.
Yep. Well, shit, man. I appreciate you guys doing this, man. We're
Sweet,
that was
sweet,
fun.
man.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
I was glad that we were able to have a conversation. Like I said, there's two great podcasts with you already on it with Steve from Speed King Cycles, Jason from Speed Metal Built, Garage Built.
Garage Built,
I don't know.
Hell on Wheels.
He's got too many damn names on
He's
his.
got a lot of names.
Yeah.
I got one.
So I
Cycle
really,
Stop.
I think it's a good idea for everybody to go check out those podcasts to hear kind of some of the more progression of your life. I wanted to just talk and just shoot the
Right.
shit
No, I like
and
it. It
talk
was
about
fun.
whatever, you know what I mean? So
It's just a total extension of what we were doing out there
Yeah,
at breakfast. Yeah. No,
So-
just kind of shooting the shit.
I appreciate it, guys.
Yes.
Well, thank you.
Hey, so check out your shit on.
BareKnucklePerformance.com, Bare Knuckle Performance on Instagram, Bare Knuckle Performance on Facebook.
Yeah.
CW is BareKnucklePerformance.cw. And we didn't really even talk much about what other stuff CW does, but he's also a very accomplished artist and
Yeah, I noticed the art
does some really
around
cool
here,
shit.
yeah.
A lot of surfboards and a lot of just.
So you've been posting that stuff though, right? On the thing.
He and I both. Yeah.
Yeah.
Him. So
I think that's good too because it expands like the
Yeah.
idea of this
It's not just motorcycles.
company. It's
Yeah.
the whole lifestyle of this. I think
Lifestyle,
that's dope,
what
man.
we've said is it's going to be a lifestyle. Art will never go away except for the ones that never like art. And then art should be passed on. Everything has a 10-year cycle. The 10-year cycle is art and motorcycles. We're all in it together.
Yeah.
pretty
So
much.
he does what I like about his art is he does stuff you may not may not have seen before. A lot of stuff that's just, I mean, he's got his own crazy mind, and that comes out in his art. And he's going to carry that over. We've got some really cool apparel stuff coming up that hopefully we'll be able to announce here within the next couple of weeks. I think by October 1st for sure.
Lots of new art stuff.
Yeah, a lot of art.
Yeah, we were going to do a whole big old fucking apparel thing this year. And then as soon as, hell, me and Aaron were out there in fucking Phoenix, like literally sitting down with people to make shit happen. And then that was late February.
Right.
Right? We were
right at the beginning of it.
soon. Then as soon as we get home, it's like,
Well, you probably should have done it by then because a lot of people spent money.
well,
Okay, we had a great spring, man.
dude, Simpson had their strongest month selling helmets in May ever.
Actually,
That's awesome.
even my art, which I don't advertise, it's usually friends. I sold more in this Corona thing than I've sold.
Yeah. It's kind of man, I don't know. It's kind of weird. I mean, it's
weird.
good. It's great, right? But it's kind of like you feel like it's the good before the bad thing happens. Like, you know what I mean? Like
It's gonna
the
get
drop
worse.
off of
It's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
Everything. Life's a roller coaster.
it is. I just want to see things progress and stay.
I'm
good.
ready to get back at it and get back to,
Yep.
market expanding and more people buying motorcycles.
True, and I
what
feel
I
like
wanna
people
see.
are buying a shit ton of motorcycles right now. I've known
I haven't
Ford-
paid much attention to it lately, but you think they are, huh?
I think right now, like Harley's struggling because they haven't been able to make anything. So like I was almost not able to get this motor that I'm going to get because
Yeah.
they
They
don't
want
have
four-
all the parts to make
3 or
the
4
motor.
month. Yeah.
Right. So
slag.
like sport glide bags, right? You can't get them anymore right now because they don't the parts. There's no parts for them.
There's over 27, over 211 parts for the sport glide bags from Harley.
Yeah.
So,
Holy
small
shit.
story, real short. I bought that bike, never rode it.
Mm-hmm.
My buddies trailered it to my house from the Harley shop, put it on the rack. Paul calls and says, "Send me the axles now. I'll
Yeah.
make axles for Sturgis." You ready for this story?
This is
Bike
funny.
still had the tags hanging from it, plastic everywhere. I jacked the bike up. I take everything off, wrap the axles in plastic bubble wrap, wrap them in a shop rag, put them in a bubble wrap wrapped envelope, send it to him. Next day air. So I'm like, all right, he's really wanting to do this. He sends me an envelope. I'm like, hell yeah, dude. He's like, no, there's no axles on it. So I just went on during my day.
UPS lost the axles.
They lost the axles. So that bike is brand new. They didn't even have it in stock when I bought it. Basically, my buddies that work at the Harley shop made this happen. They said, you'll never get axles for that thing. One axle was in California and the other one was in like
Montana.
Montana.
Only two axles
Only
in the
two
country.
axles in the country.
One spare
yeah.
front axle, one spare rear axle in the entire
So-
country. Plus the two that are on
So
a
Aaron,
UPS truck.
Aaron had on his road or his fucking Road King out there. He had the lithium battery that Harley came out with, that super lightweight $300 battery, and he went to go turn his bike on yesterday, and it's only been in his bike for probably 4 months, maybe.
Man.
Doesn't work.
Dang.
Trickle charge, you can't charge it. The lithium battery's fucked. It's toast. It does have a warranty though, right? You said it did.
Lifetime warranty.
But-
Just send it in. Get the call the 800 number. Send it in. And
It's
they
not
said
worth the
3 to-
hassle.
They said 3 to 6 months before you get it back.
So there's no, it's like the thing is though, with everything being shut down, there's no parts, and it kind of is fucking us on that. There's some people
every
on
aspect
that,
of it, business.
So it's that's the hard part. You know what I mean? But like I said, there's supposedly some new shit coming out next year that's going to be pretty crazy with the Harley stuff, and I'm kind of glad that they did the
like
the Lowrider S. That was a really
Yeah.
smart thing to do. What was that?
The lowrider S.
Yeah. That's the bike right there, man. Lowrider S, Sport Glide bags, and some kind of fairing to kind of block the wind, and that was my thing. I would totally have ridden that bike all over the
That's a
country.
nice bike.
Yeah, those are dope.
But you
it-
can't get the bags.
Can't get the bags right now. And you know what's funny, man? I keep getting hit up by all these dudes
bike
that I know
sucks.
from the big wheel world that used to make bags and
Yeah.
fairing, or not fairings, but bags, fenders, tanks, all that shit.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, man, we're thinking about making an RT fairing, man. Like, what do you think is, like, who's got the best one that we can use as the plug, right? And I'm like, dude, we don't need another RT fairing maker. You know what? And I'm probably fucking up by saying this. I was like, those Sport Glide bags are so simplistic. It would be the easiest thing in the world to pop, right? What's complicated about it is their latching system, because it's like, but anybody with a brain could figure out another way to use the same hardware, not the same hardware, but the same mounting
Right,
stuff, and just
system.
make a new system for holding the bags on. Those bags, I guarantee you would, because they look good on the side of FXRs.
Yeah, no,
they
those
look
are
good on
good-looking
Dynas. I think that they could actually, if you make them a little bit bigger, they'll fucking work on baggers and look sick. And I think that's the move. And everybody's like,
small,
what?
make a different
what?
look.
Or make like the same size, because one's shorter than the other. So make them both the same size.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I was like,
pipe, is that what is that?
yeah,
right?
so the pipe's so tall on this side that they make it one bag's like 3 inches longer. But I don't know why the fuck people want bags, dude. Make them. Make it happen. If you can make a repop of a clamshell, you can definitely do this.
Yeah, right.
You know? So I don't know. That's kind of a weird thing. It's weird that people don't pay attention to these things, and a painter has to be the
has
guy
the
to tell
idea,
you,
yeah.
like, yo, man, like, this is a better area to make parts.
They might pay attention to it, but they don't proceed.
Yeah.
Well, they're not thinking, like, how many RT
dude, a
repops
shit ton.
are there? There's gotta be
With
half a
Deviant,
dozen.
TOL, RWD, is it a JD Fab?
Big Mike.
So
BMC.
BMC.
One in Thailand, I can tell you, my buddy just bought one.
That's Deviant, I think. No. They're in Pakistan or some shit.
Another and
This one in
Oh,
Thailand.
I think it is Pakistan. I think one of them's out of Pakistan.
Yeah. And so there's like so many people making this fairing. And right now, I mean, honestly, the RWD is probably the best bang for your buck as far as the fairing is concerned. But I do like Sean from TOLs because the inside is all smooth and ready for
Finished,
paint, but
yeah.
it's very heavy though. That's the only problem is like doing that because
Right.
you have an inner mold and an outer mold and
Right.
you're putting them
Makes it
together makes it fucking heavy.
Yeah.
Dude. So, but
Does anybody making one out of ABS?
nope, not yet.
That'd be
That's
way
the
to go.
move.
That'd be the way to go with all of it.
Yeah,
is ABS over fiberglass.
100%. That's the way to go, man. And the ABS, I feel like John might get on board with that. It'd be hard to injection mold that fairing. You'd have to do it in
Think so.
pieces,
Yeah.
and then kind of glue it all together. That could be difficult. I mean, that's the reason why Harley stopped making that fairing because it was so complicated to make.
And heavy and broke a lot.
Yeah, I
Because they
mean,
kept putting more and more shit inside of it.
trust me, I just repaired his original one, and it was it's a lot.
Mess.
Yeah, it's a lot. So
It's a good looking fairing though.
it is, and apparently, damn, I'm not supposed to say this either. There's a new one coming out from Harley that's like a. Fuck it, they don't listen to this podcast. So there's a new RT style fairing coming out.
Really?
It's got kind of the lines, but modernized. You know what I'm saying? So
Well, that's cool.
yeah.
Maybe they are listening.
They
I mean,
are.
not to this, but I mean, maybe
Yeah.
they're listening to us.
They are. They're checking it out. You know, and they see that the performance. I mean, the performance bagger thing. It'd be stupid for them not to capitalize off that because it's literally like keeping everything original looking. It isn't big wheel bagger,
Right.
long fairings, cutting
90% of the work's done.
Yeah,
They
you're
don't
just-
even have to change the production line for much.
Yeah, I mean,
So
like I
just
said,
give
if
us
they
a better brake, give us a little more suspension, give us a little bit more performance out of the engine,
done,
and you're
Done
good.
deal.
You know,
And that's kind of the deal with this whole trip going up to Milwaukee is that with everybody making motor, top end kits and things like that, SNS doesn't make a replacement motor for it. The amount of money that this thing costs versus the amount of money it takes to do a bottom end, a top end, to do a 124 correctly is like you're looking at probably $2,000 less to just do the crate motor.
yeah,
And if the crate motor makes reliable power and it's not breaking everything else in the bike,
Right.
which is another thing no one ever thinks about.
right.
Like you're gonna put a 150 horsepower motor on your stock transmission, your stock primary stuff. Like you're asking for problems down the line. Like,
Belt's so little too. I was
Yeah.
about that little bitty old belt.
so I'm like,
Is that what they are though? 150 horse.
well, the 124 done correctly, with HPI, good pipe, all that shit, throttle body, all that stuff. You can make about 150 horsepower out of a 124.
What's that one? You're getting a 131 though, right?
Yeah,
What's
so the
that gonna do?
131 supposedly, and this is what sucks about YouTube videos on this thing is I was looking everywhere, and everybody does the clickbait bullshit where they say crate motor, this is the numbers, and then you find out it's just they did the top end, which you can take a 114 or a 117 to a 131, and so the crate motor is supposed to put out like 124 ish to the ground, right? And then it's supposed to be like 130 to 140 ish torque, right? I'm fucking stoked with. I'm good with
Yeah.
that. I don't really.
yeah, for sure.
124 horsepower, 124 reliable horsepower. I'm good with that. I really don't need 140 horsepower, and that's a 2019 bike, and I go turn the thing on right now. I'm either at 39,000 miles or 38, almost at 39.
Yeah.
So
Well, that bike, 15 years ago had 64 horsepower?
pretty much.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's anyway.
So
the
those
same and-
those inmates, they come like you put a cam in there, it wakes it the fuck up.
I know that's
That's what I
what.
said about that one.
So
Yeah,
the 107 is 84 horsepower from the deal, and the 114 is 86, and then the 117 is 92.
Yes.
Right. So when you put a cam in there, even a janky exhaust system like I have, which I do got to give two brothers some credit. That pipe's got 30,000 miles on it. Nothing's broken on it. Never.
It's a good pipe.
That's what
Yeah.
we're putting on that.
And it just doesn't have the power that it kind of robs power more than anything.
Does it?
Apparently it does. It still gives you some power, but not like you would if you actually had a real 2-in-1 with some actual headers on it, basically.
Yeah.
But the cam, man, as soon as you put it in there, like you're looking at like 105 horsepower.
They say that the heads are way overbuilt.
Yeah, like you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Dude, there's a lot of potential in these motors, and like I said, I got a cam, an exhaust, air cleaner, thundermax on that bike. I'm at 37,000 or 30, almost 30,000, 39,000 miles. Not one issue, not one
That's
fucking
what I'm
issue.
talking about.
You know, everybody's like, "Oh, fucking these inmates are." Yeah, they had some issues when they first came out
Yeah.
that they had to work out, but fuck, other than that, those
Every
things.
manufacturer does that though with the first year and a
Yeah,
half.
you never buy the first year, bro. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
All right, cool. We'll wrap it up for sure.
All right,
right
man.
now. Thank you
Appreciate
guys.
it.
Appreciate
Good
it,
stuff,
brother.
Good stuff.
All right. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Want to thank you guys for checking it out and thank Paul and CW for sitting down and sharing with us all this awesome shit that they helped me talk on this podcast. So if you guys want to support this podcast, the main ways to do that are check out our Patreon, patreon.com/Fast Life Garage. You can donate $1, $10, $5, whatever you feel comfortable. It drafts automatically from your account every month, and you know that you're putting it towards this podcast to help us bring new guests and create a better quality show for you guys. Also, Dream Rides John on Instagram and teamdreamrides.com. 100 days, same as cash. Take advantage of that. Paint Huffer Metal Flake on Instagram and painthuffer.com. Fast Life 20 for 10% off. Thundermax EFI on Instagram and shoptmax.com, and Fast Life at checkout saves you 10% off their awesome products. Lexin Moto on Instagram and lexin-moto.com. Fast Life at checkout saves you 15% off. Simpson motorcycle helmets is the shit. Check them out on Instagram and simpsonmotorcyclehelmets.com. And last but not least, Electric Lighting Co. You can check them out at namscustomcycleproducts.com and electriclighting.com. Electric Lighting on Instagram Co. I fucked that one up. Sorry, guys. Check them all out, and thank you guys for checking this podcast out. We'll be back with my buddy, Insta Having Kyle, a performance bagger dude. He's the shit, and he's been in the custom car motorcycle game for a while, and really excited to have him on this podcast. So you guys stay tuned.